Good morning. Today is 1 August, the year 2008. I'm Dr. Dave Thompson, a volunteer at the Palm Springs Air Museum here in California. Part of our mission is to record and preserve the history of our country's military conflicts, especially World War II. As part of the Veterans History Project of the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., we conduct interviews of veterans and civilians who participated in those conflicts. Today, I'm here at the museum along with fellow volunteer Bob Andrade and special guest Elizabeth Chavez. And the other day, we also had here Lieutenant Colonel Vera Helen Gilbert, a niece of our subject today, and Mrs. Vera Gilbert, his sister. And today we have the honor and the privilege of interviewing Captain George Buckner Edwards. Captain Edwards was a Buffalo soldier in North Africa and Italy with the 92nd and 93rd Infantry Divisions during World War II. And, equally important, he's a really nice guy. And the reason I know that is because he's from my hometown of Evansville, Indiana. George, nice to have you here. Now, tell you what, which hat do you want? I want to focus on these hats you got.
This hat, this is the best purple.
Okay, let me go up on that one there a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay.
All I want is just one shot of this one.
Yeah, okay. And Elizabeth is returning, and Elizabeth is your caregiver. Really nice young lady. Okay, so I got that. Do you want to take it off and point out the, this mainly is your Purple Heart, right? Yeah, I'll not take it up, put it up here a little bit. Okay. And I've read stories about how, do you know how the Purple Heart was actually, wasn't George Washington had the idea?
Yes, it was.
And he had someone kind of design it, or so. Do you know a little bit about that?
Yes, and I presented your associate a Purple Heart medallion.
Yes.
A gold medallion, something that you can only get if you're a Purple Heart veteran of World War I or World War II.
Oh, okay.
Never seen one, but you've seen one now.
Great. And okay, do you want to show the other?
This too.
Okay, let's see that. Okay. Yeah.
This hat shows the medallion, the medals of every veterans organization, American Legion, Disabled American Veterans, life membership, except American Legion. And the reason I don't have the life membership in American Legion is that the American Legion was formed in Indiana in 1919, the year I was born. And being born next door to the Ku Klux Klan headquarters, that was a problem.
Well,
That explains all about the hat.
yeah, that's great. Okay, do you want to leave them off, or you want to put them on, or you can just leave them? Okay. Now, okay, first of all, would you repeat and spell your full name for me, please?
George B. Edwards. George Buckner Edwards. George Buckner Edwards. Georgebuckner Edwards. I was delivered by Dr. George Buckner, Evansville, Indiana, who was the ambassador to Liberia.
I'll be darned.
That's right.
Huh. And when were you born?
October 17, 1919, at the time that the Protestants were holding conventions on Friday, open Friday, October 17, in which the ministers were strongly opposed to women wearing high heel slippers with skirts, and they wiggled when they walked. And I can show you the pictures of it in the book.
Oh, okay. And you were born. So that makes you how many years young?
89 years.
Wow.
You're kicking.
And Evansville, Indiana. Well, I know where Evansville, Indiana is, but why don't you explain to everybody where Evansville, Indiana is?
Evansville, Indiana is a strange place. It was just located across the river from the Kentucky border. Evansville was a free state. Kentucky was a slave state. And the thing that impressed me mostly as a kid, we still had slaves. A lot of and running around who had escaped from Kentucky. If you could get across the river from Kentucky to Indiana, you were put in the underground. And the thing I was most impressed with the Catholics was it was the Catholic people, repeat, that had small homes on the Ohio River, downtown in Evansville, but they had tremendous sized basements, tremendous size. And they used those basements to conceal the slaves that could get across from Kentucky or the South and work them through Evansville, through the underground into Canada.
Yeah.
But Evansville was a slave-running state, which is very rare.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And what was your father's name?
Father's name was Charles Edwards. He had a Cherokee cleaning company, and he also worked at the Western Union as a porter at the Western Union when he died. The result of the religious revolution against the Catholics and the KKK caused my father, who was a railroad worker, to lose his job and had to close his cleaning company, and he went to work at Western Union, where he worked till he retired.
Where was Western Union? I don't remember.
On Main Street and about 3rd Street, 3rd and Main.
About 3rd and Main. Oh yeah, okay. I used to work at on 3rd and Main. Levinson's was a store. I worked in high school, so it must have been pretty close to there. And your father's background, how did he end up in Evansville, and do you know how far back that you can trace your ancestors from his line?
From what I can understand, my father had to change his name because he and his brothers were horse thieves in the South. And that's about it. Other than the fact that he was the father of 20 children, 19 lived.
Do you know what states or where he was living down south, where they came?
Apparently, Louisiana, I believe. But he was born in Indiana.
He was.
But the family was down in Louisiana and North Carolina, where the Cherokee Indians. He was a Cherokee Indian.
Oh, really? So that's why it was called the Cherokee
Cherokee Cleaning Company.
Cleaning Company, yeah. Huh. Okay, yeah. And were there slaves on his side of the family that you know of?
Apparently not.
Okay.
Apparently not.
And you think that's because they were part Cherokee?
Part Cherokee.
Yeah.
And as you know, the Cherokees were very effective in fighting the Klan. Very effective.
I didn't know that.
Most effective.
Yeah. And your mother, what was her name and her maiden name?
Beulah Jackson Graham. She was born in Rockport, Indiana, and she had Cherokee and little colored little Negro blood.
Did she? And I was just, when I was back in Evansville, like I say, in June, we went through Rockport. I'd gone up to Louisville and then came back down through there. And
Abraham Lincoln slipped off and fell in the river down there.
yeah. Well, that could easily happen, yeah. Yeah, a lot of people may not know it, but Abraham Lincoln spent a lot of his boyhood in that area, around Lincoln State Park and that area. Nancy Hanks, I think, was his mother. Yeah. So, and what did her dad do? Or
I knew little about that.
Don't know much about their family.
Yeah.
Okay. And okay. And do you know where your mom and dad met? Did they meet in Evansville? Probably.
They met in Evansville. She was a school teacher.
Oh.
At the time, you could teach from Indiana University, I believe it was, Indiana Technical School, where she got her teaching license in Terre Haute.
Okay.
That I know.
And tell me the address that you. Well, tell me. Did you have any brothers and sisters?
Yes, I had 11 brothers and 8 sisters.
Wow.
12.
Do we dare try to name all of them?
Well, I have a picture there. I can name them. I can name them. Yes.
Okay.
Marie, Carl, Frank, Charles, Robert, Max, Molly, George, John, Walter, Pilar, Sudie, Raymond, Vera Helen, Cecile. I mean, no matter how many I got, but hey, Harold and Herbert.
Okay. And where do you fit in that
I
race?
am, unfortunately, I'm the seventh son, so I caught hell.
Seven sons.
But I had a pretty nice life because, as I pointed out, I was delivered by and named after Dr. George Buckner, who was very aristocratic, and so he took care of me a lot. He stressed education.
So, when you still knew him when you were growing up, he was still
Yes,
around
I did.
Evansville?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Where was his practice? Do you know?
On Mulberry Street
Mhm.
in Evansville.
Okay. And okay, now tell me the address that you grew up in, the house that you grew up in. What was it like?
I was born on 6th and Mulberry, next door to the range, next door to the company I can't call it. But I was born next to on Mulberry Street, 608 East Mulberry, and then I moved to Cherry Street and number 10 Ballard Street, which later became Cherry Street, and I moved to 614 Walnut Street, which is across from the vinegar factory, and then to 215 Northwest 8th Street, Evansville, down by the Denver cigar factory.
Okay.
And the ice house.
Uh-huh. Oh. My grandfather worked at the ice house. He delivered ice with a horse and buggy, and he was pretty strong. He was in World War I, and he came back and worked in there and carried ice up and down the steps.
We probably knew him very well.
Yeah,
Well, he was down the street.
Yeah, I'll be darned. Yeah, they lived. My mother and dad each lived on Reed Street between Indiana and Illinois, just a
Not
block
too
or so
far.
from Pennsylvania. There, in the division. Yeah.
In that general area.
Yeah, and the railroad track ran
Canal
through
Street,
there.
yeah.
Yeah. My dad went to Baker School, and I said my mom went to Assumption. Now, and was your family very religious? Did you guys go to church a lot and stuff?
Yes, we went to Assumption Church, and we were there in when they first decided to have a minority church, and we had services. Sister Alma Cecile, Sister Mary Thomas, two of them who were very active, and we had our services after in the basement in the gymnasium at Assumption Church.
Yeah.
I remember when Assumption was built, and they took down the altar, and we had dances, and that increased the population of the Catholics among the minorities by, I say, 100% or more. We had the largest Catholic population of any of the minorities.
Now, when you went to Assumption, were you black children all together, or were you integrated with the white children?
No, there was. We went to Assumption Church.
Yeah.
That was, and the Monsignor Ryan had a special section up right on the left, the right of the altar, very on the right side. But that was one section for the colored troops, for the colored personnel.
But they wouldn't have liked it if you went in where the white people were?
No, they did not bother us. We,
They didn't
came in any time. You sat wherever you could.
You could. Okay.
Assumption was a good place.
Yeah, wasn't the cathedral of Evansville at that time?
No, it wasn't a cathedral at that time. It became a cathedral just about time of World War II.
Oh, did it? Okay. Yeah.
When Father Ryan made Monsignor.
Yeah.
That's on Vine, I believe it is, about 7th and Vine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. So, you mentioned a couple of the teachers. Were they like your favorite teachers you had in grade school?
In grade school, well, I had some pretty fair teachers, but I ended up marrying the niece of the teacher, Jerry Spotsville, who beat me almost every day. He was a long, lanky Texan. And he was our mathematics and algebra.
Was he a priest or a
No.
lay? A
He was
priest?
lay.
Oh, okay.
But this was at Lincoln.
Oh, this was Lincoln.
Yeah, so we had no school, no schooling at that time. They did set up a school later on in
You talking about high school?
after I left.
Yeah.
I think there was an
No,
elementary on Belmont.
Belmead?
Street. Belmead, right behind Lincoln, where the Lincoln School was.
Okay.
But that was after I left. I left there, I hate to say it, but I left when they had the big flood and Pied Piper blew the whistle, blew the flute, and all the rats left. And I was considered one of the rats leaving with us, so I left there going west.
1937, yeah. But let's back up a little bit again. When you were growing up and going to Assumption and grade school and stuff, what did you kids do for fun?
For fun, well, we had a family set up that I did a lot of wrestling, but we had activities that it was very, very helpful to us. If we played football and basketball, everything, in full year in there, and we had a whistle that we used, a family with 20 children, and was spread all the way over town. And if one of them got in a little problem, he blew his whistle, and there's always one of the other families close by there, and we all ran like hell. But when they got to that yard, nobody came. With 20 children, we had all the protection. But if the policemen came out there, they'd always take about 6 or 7 squad cars come out there to deal with all us Edwardses. But we were good kids, no problem.
Was it a 2-story house that you lived
We
in?
had a 2-story house, 2-story and a 2-story and a half. Up in the attic, like.
And did you, in your bedroom, did you have other brothers that you
Oh, yes,
stayed with?
yes, we had 3 and 4 and 5. Yeah, you couldn't get that big house. But we had, on East Street we had a big house. On Walnut Street we had a big house. And,
Did you do any fishing in the Ohio?
any fishing?
Uh-huh.
I did a lot of fishing. And I quit eating fish when they had the flood in '37, and there's fish in my living room. So
I meant to ask you, yeah, did the water come up to your house?
came to the house, and there's fish in the living room, and I've never eaten fish since. And she'll tell you, my caregiver will tell you, I don't eat fish, and they won't bring me fish.
How deep did the water come into you?
Well, it was about 2 feet in the house, yeah. And the basement.
Right, yeah.
There's several fish down in the basement. But the flood just had that whole area, Riverside.
Yeah. I guess they didn't really have a very good levee at that time, and so they've done
That flood came right after you built Dress Plaza.
Really?
About a year after. That's just to let you know that somebody had more power than you had. But when Dress Plaza was built, that was supposed to take care of all flooding. It was built about 35. But 37, there was a lot of water.
Right. Of course, Evansville wasn't the only town that got hit that time. You were mentioning about Mesker Park. Tell me the background of Mesker Park and how that got built.
Mesker Park was a segregated park for years. But when the CCC camp came in, they rebuilt Mesker Park. They spent a lot of time there and money rebuilding it. And if you're familiar with the CCC camp, that was the Civilian Conservation Camp organized by President Roosevelt in 1933 to provide employment for the unemployed kids. You receive
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought,
$1 a day.
why don't they have something like that today? I mean,
we received $1 a day, $30 a month, but 25 of that money was sent to your parents for help. You received $5 yourself, $5, or if you're a 6 leader, you got $9, or $15 if you're a leader. But at the end of the month, we had maybe 75 cents left. But we provided for help for our family. And the CCC camp, which we should have right now, provided, the expression you see in those papers, got our ribs out of pawn, because we were so hungry that at that time their ribs was sunken. And once you got your ribs out of pawn, you know, you felt free.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, well, let's back up a little bit again. Okay, so then you went to Lincoln High School.
Lincoln High School.
And I think I mentioned when I was in high school, Lincoln High School was still in effect, and we played football against Lincoln, and Lincoln they were purple and gold was their colors, and I remember the Lincoln Lions. Yeah. Did you play football in high school?
I played football at Lincoln. But let's say one other thing about Evansville now. Evansville, when I was a kid, had one policeman, one mail carrier, one fireman. And Evansville, I says very slowly, Evansville ended up with a KKK mayor. And that mayor introduced separate but equal. And he did build a beautiful high school with new equipment, new everything. He did have about 7 policemen. Only had one for 30 years, about 20, 30 years. But you had 7 policemen. You did have a fire station, a whole fire station. And you had a letter carrier section.
You're talking about in the area around Lincoln High School?
Around Lincoln High School.
Okay, and I think my dad said, a lot of people call that Baptist Town?
Baptist Town.
Right.
Baptist Town.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, I sold newspapers at the time when women were allowed to vote. And I used to go into Baptist Town with my little red wagon and my newspapers, and people would taking my papers away from me. So I reported back to the Mr. Baumgartner, I believe it was Baumgartner was the man. And he reported back to the president of the Evansville Courier and Press. And he would, instead of them doing anything, they would give me more papers. So I ended up with about 30 papers, and I only sold about 4 or 5. Well, the rest of them were taken away from me. So when I came back to Evansville as a second lieutenant, not first lieutenant, I went down to the newspaper office, and I talked to he was just retiring, the president of the Courier Press, and he told me why he provided those papers. We wanted to get papers into Evansville, but Evansville had a lot of crazy people that were World War I veterans. And of course they had old pistols, and they used to chase this kid with wild, crazy guns, but that Evansville did have an effective setup after this KKK mayor was there. I don't know his name now, but
so there was some positives that came out of that. You were
separate
saying.
but equal, and we had a beautiful school. I had one other problem. When I graduated from high school, I asked my mother to take me to WPA school so I could take typing and bookkeeping, and because it was not allowed to be taught to the boys. At that time, the attitude was women can, and I had a beautiful typing school there in Lincoln, and bookkeeping. But boys were not allowed to, or not encouraged to take typing or bookkeeping. So I did take typing for 1 week, just long enough to learn the keyboard. And I was in the CCC camp and was promoted the first week I was there as assistant educational director. And I had 3 other brothers who spent 2 years each. And in 1 week time, just because I learned to type, I had better reading than they had in the 2 years times 3, 6 years. So the CCC was a great opportunity.
Yeah. So how old were you when you went into the CCC?
17.
17. Were you still in high school then?
No, I just finished high school.
Just finished high school, okay. Yeah. And we were talking, I mentioned to you that the Royal Theater was a theater in Baptist Town, and my aunt was, and when she was in high school, she sold tickets there. And you were, I think you said you worked there too, did you not?
I was the first, yes, I knew your aunt. In fact, I introduced your aunt to the fellow that she married.
I'll be darned.
Yeah, it was for years. In fact, I used to hear from him about 5 years after I left Evansville. They lived out around Maryland or.
Well,
They walked. They walked. He rode a bicycle and he walked home with it.
Really? Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the name of the owner of the Royal Theater too. But,
I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure she would know.
but he hired me at first.
Yeah.
But because I was carrying newspapers and I was working hard. I was quite a hustler in Evansville.
Yeah.
I was 20 children you had to work, 19 living.
Well, did you have a bicycle?
I had a bicycle. Yes, and I left.
Did your family have a car?
Yes, we had the Model T and two Model Ts, I believe, and one Model A.
So tell me let's talk a little bit more about the Depression. I don't think a lot of young people realize, I mean, people think they've got it bad now. They don't really know what bad is, do they?
We could use a good depression too. I've been a widower for about 55 years, and women today don't want to cook. So, you should never touch me on that subject. But that's a bad subject with me. But I point out in the CCC camp, when they came to town, and you'll see an article about in my history thing there. You came to town, there were 150 to 200 men in the big trucks, the semi-trucks. And you had the women were lined up waiting, the young girls were waiting. And you knew that those young girls knew how to keep, all of them wore dresses, unless they did some work where they needed pants. But they were glad to get out of them. But they wore dresses, they kept clean houses, and they all knew how to cook. So they would come to town, and the CCC boys, and they'd line up, and everybody had somebody invite them to home, and a lot of them married, most of them married. That's what the CCC camp saved our country. Had we not had the CCC camp, we would have never been able to field an army strong enough to take on the Germans or anyone.
I want to go back
and
to
it taught us respect. The one thing we don't have today is respect, and they taught us respect. And respect that for the country, it taught you that you planted some trees, or you built a dam, or you worked on a road, and I'll be damned if you will let anybody come in there to take it. Our children have nothing to put their hands on now. That's what they need.
Let's go back to the KKK again. Now, you had mentioned that your father probably lost his because of them. Did you? Well, tell me a little bit how that happened and anything else that you can recall. Were you scared of them? What was?
No, we were not afraid of them. We just had so many children that they never bothered us. Now they would stop by. And I've even seen they shot children if they wouldn't dance. They shot them in the foot with BB guns or but no, Charlie Edwards. You want the Charlie Edwards kids, you go over here. You don't belong over there. And but we sit on it as little kids. You see in that article on being born next door to Ku Klux Klan headquarters that we knew them. We knew they'd come in with their clothes on, and we knew them. And we knew we carried papers all over the damn town, so. We knew where they were, so they would stop us later and want to ask us, what did you see? We didn't see anything. Didn't see anything. We knew that we had, but they would say, you're Charlie Edwards' kid? Yes. Okay, you go here. You don't belong over there. You don't go over there. You stay over there. So they protected us to a degree, but they knew that with so many children that they never bothered us. There were just too many, and they knew we were Catholics.
Yeah.
But numbers, and it was always over everywhere. I mean, you could just blow. We had a special whistle, and I don't know. Seriously, you blew that whistle. You had a special whistle. You had help. You didn't know where they were.
In southern Indiana, even like you said, even though we did. In Evansville, they did help the slaves during the Civil War, but there's still kind of a southern mentality in Evansville, more so than up by Indianapolis or northern.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
but it's so close to the Indianapolis. And Indianapolis did not have the underground that Evansville had. Yeah. You'd see those homes, beautiful homes. I know a lot of names of the people that lived there. but small homes right on the Ohio on Riverside Drive and all those areas.
Yeah.
But basements, terrific sized basements, and they use those basements to keep the slaves, hide the slaves. So
You were talking about you being both black and Catholic. It reminds me of a joke I heard a priest told one time that down south years ago there was a new priest down there, and he's going down the road, and there's a little black boy walking alongside the road, and he picks him up in his car and gives him a ride, and he said, "I'm the new priest at St. Joseph's over here," and he said, "Would you like to come over and talk to me sometime?" So the kid said, "Well, I guess so." And he said, "Yeah, I'd like to talk to you about maybe you'd like to become Catholic." He said, "Oh no, Father, it's bad enough being black."
it was rough, and especially you don't look at their teeth, because the Catholics can't look at their teeth. The Catholics, they'll fall out.
Really?
Don't count your teeth.
Yeah, they used to call us cat lickers all the time. Stuff
Yeah,
like that.
rosary. The rosary set up.
Yeah. Okay, so so you graduated. When did you graduate from high school?
1937.
1930s, of the year of the flood. And the flood was in the springtime. Is that when the flood?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And so then, how long did you stay there before you left Evansville?
As soon as I graduated, I left a month later.
Did you? And where did you go, or what did you do?
Cynthiana, Indiana, and then to Wadesville, the Cynthiana, then to Fort Benjamin Harrison, Indiana.
Well, I was just going to say, Cynthia. I lived on Big Cynthiana Road out by St. Joe out in the country, and in Cynthiana, and their basketball team was called the Annas, the Cynthiana Annas.
Good basketball team, but we played them at
Yeah.
CCC.
Did you? Yeah.
CCC was able to participate in all integrated.
So you were still with the CCC when you
Yeah.
left Evansville? Okay.
Yeah.
And so you were. How long were you in Cynthiana then?
About 6 months, I guess, and they moved.
They had like a camp that you all stayed
yes,
at?
Camp for single-story camps. Then we went to Fort Benjamin Harrison.
That's in
and-
Indianapolis?
In Indianapolis, and I stayed there about a year, and then moved back to Princeton, Indiana. And of course, I left. I would leave Evansville and come west, and then go back and forth. I used the CCC camp as a security blanket. I'd get a little bit hungry, and I'd go back. But I had SSJ rating, which was special selected junior, so I could always go in. I didn't have the 2 years.
So you didn't have to stay there continuously?
No, I tell you, the maximum was 2 years, unless you had an SSJ rating. So I was in and out. I'd make a little money.
Did you work on the outside then too?
Yes,
In
Spiegel Furniture Company.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then, of course, I go back out west and come back and spend a little while, and I got broke and hungry and come back, go back in the CCC camp. I say it's a security blanket.
Yeah.
Not many people do it, but I did it.
Do you remember what you were doing December 7th, 1941?
December 7th, 41, there's a picture showing me. I was walking out the door. We were eating breakfast when Pearl Harbor hit.
And where were you
In
living
Fort
then?
Huachuca, Arizona.
Oh, okay. So that was still part of the CCC?
No, that's the Army.
Okay. Well, when did you join the Army then?
February the 8th, 1941. Now, there's a strange situation. I was a volunteer. I could have had, by virtue of one day, October the 16th birthday, would have had me eligible for the draft. I was born October 17th, but I had one day. But I went in to get with my experience in the CCC camp.
Okay.
And it was very effective.
Okay, and so you went to Fort Huachuca, that's in Arizona,
Fort
right?
Huachuca, Arizona.
And was that, were there whites and blacks there?
No, that's all blacks. 10th Cavalry, 9th Cavalry, 25th Infantry, 24th Infantry.
Okay. And this is where the term, were they Buffalo soldiers, was that part?
Buffalo soldiers, and the blue helmet was before the Buffalo. And they were all farmed out there. It was the biggest base where they could put a whole division in the unit.
I've heard a story. I think I know how that term "Buffalo Soldiers" came about, but can you tell?
Yes,
I'll let you share it with me.
Well, I soldiered with a lot of men who fought in the Spanish-American War. Some who fought in the Philippines.
Yeah.
And they were, fortunately, I was, as the first sergeant, I was in command of a lot of them that were a lot older than me, 40, 45 years old. But I had my CCC experience, and I was able to be in charge. I was regimental sergeant major in 369th Infantry. But the Buffalo Soldiers were called Buffalo because the curls in the hair of buffalo. And I had an incident right here in Coachella, in Indio, in a restaurant out there. And I had my Buffalo Soldier shirt on, and I was told to not wear that shirt anymore because a lot of Apache Indians live out there in India. And they remembered that we had Apache soldiers, and they told me not to wear it anymore. So I don't wear it when I go out there.
You don't get scalped. This is what I had heard too, that the troopers in the cavalry, U.S. cavalry out west back in like the 1870s in the Indian Wars, the Indians called them Buffalo Soldiers because they had black curly hair that looked like the buffalo. Yeah.
Well, that was, now you said the cavalry, but the infantry, see, you had 2 cavalry units, 9th and 10th Cavalry. You had 2 infantry units, 24th, 25th Infantry. So you have to speak of one as one unit, but all 4 units.
Okay.
Now the politicians today are playing down the Buffalo Soldier, but you'll see the Buffalo Soldier setup is used for the cavalry. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Buffalo Soldier was 4 different cavalry and infantry.
Okay, yeah.
And because of there's an article in there I showed you in there about what happened between the fighting and the tactics and so forth. That the cavalry still didn't get. Well, the cavalry in World War II became
mechanized.
Truck driving.
Right.
No.
Yeah. Right.
Now Patton was considered a racist general, but that was strong. Patton took advantage of the fact that those truck drivers had worked so hard with that round the world express,
Red Ball
Express, that he selected certain ones to go to set up a special unit. It was the first integrated unit in the Army, long before Truman or anything else. Mm-hmm. But he had an integrated unit, infantry and cavalry, and cavalry with tanks.
Right, mechanized.
Patton was the first one that integrated the military service. The Army, the government won't say that, but it was Patton. But they were mad at Patton for a lot of things.
Yeah. Well, if you know Patton, yeah. He'll do whatever it takes to win.
That's what he said. He said, you want to fight, I'll use you.
Right.
And he did. Patton was a good man.
Okay, so so going back to December 7th, 1941, what were you doing then?
I was a staff sergeant. I was a regimental sergeant. I was a staff sergeant. And I was assigned to a water tower out there in Fort Huachuca. Now, we found out while we were there, before we moved into Needles and moved into this area, that the Germans, who were strong in many places in northern Mexico, and who had been promised that if Mexico would join the Germans, they were going to give the United States to Mexico. And that was a strong commitment. But they had several airstrips, and they would fly over Fort Huachuca. But Fort Huachuca has a high elevation and a lot of clouds, so we could hear the planes while we were there in Fort Huachuca before we moved out. But then we knew they were German planes, but you couldn't see them. But they ended up finding about 4 or 5 air carters down there.
So on December 7th, when do you remember when you first heard about the attack on Pearl Harbor?
Yes, we were eating breakfast. But we had the Los Angeles Times paper was publishing pictures of submarines being shot down, being bombed, and and aircraft battle going on all up to that we knew that something was going on.
Yeah.
But
But it didn't really come as a shock to you, or did it? I mean, or did
no,
were you?
no, the reason it didn't come as a shock is that we were drafted, but we were advised that on December the 6th that we were going home for the convenience of the government. We went in February, but we didn't have it, but they would let us come over for the convenience of the government. And we'd all signed discharge. Only we had not signed them, they'd all been typed up. And so when Pearl Harbor hit, they just, I had 2 suits, new suits, and over at the post office, I must have been 1,000 suits, pairs of uniforms. They were all going to dress up and go home and for the convenience of the government. And those that are over 45 draftees were sent home about a month earlier. So, but they were all called back. But, the day after Pearl Harbor, we were out in the parade ground, and we surrendered our discharge to the personnel officer there, and received a 6-pack of 3.2 beer. That was our reward for surrendering our discharge. Now we didn't we surrendered it. Yeah, we did. You know,
But were you pretty much up on current affairs? You knew what was going on in
Yes.
Europe, and you knew that what Japan was getting up to.
I was regimental clerk. I was right under the regiment, and fortunately, I was also the officer's pay clerk. So
Did you have white officers there?
Yes, there were all white officers there at that time. And fortunately, we had mostly West Pointers. Now, there's an article in I read about the thing. West Pointers trained black soldiers. West Pointers trained us because West Pointers learned from the British. And it's very important, in fact, and MacArthur pointed out when Truman tried to fire him. But the Watusis defeated the British in battle after battle. You see pictures of it, they line up. Yeah. And what they were doing is they were stomping and making a lot of noise. But what they were doing, they were digging holes in the ground. And the Watusis taught us concealment, camouflage, and containment. You contain them, you conceal it, you contain them, and you camouflage them. And they would march in large numbers right up to the British and then back up. And the British thought they were retreating and they were going to have a good battle. And the British just ran head first, like Buffalo soldiers was supposed to have done, head first right into the battle. And then, but the Watusis was to come out the ground and shoot them. And that's what defeated the British on 3 big battles. So the British taught the West Pointers. Now we had, let's say the West Pointers did teach, now they're not always the best officers, but they did teach the colored soldier. And they did a pretty effective job. But the MacArthur in World War II got the older West Pointers. Eisenhower got the younger West Pointers. And we had George C. Marshall was a VMI Southern General. He was in charge of everybody, but he made sure that Mark Clark was a West Pointer, but Mark Clark was given all the all the Southern generals. Southern generals weren't active in they were growing up in World War I, but none of them made general. So, but they made colonel and lieutenant colonel, but when World War II came, they made generals. And so MacArthur had the West Pointers, Eisenhower West Pointers, all taught with containment, camouflage, etc. The 3 C's, but the Southerners had frontal. Just as it did in the Civil War, they lined up and moved forward, and had a lot of casualties. And Mark Clark was severely criticized because of the number of casualties, but he could not do a thing because they were Southern trained officers, all of us. And in World War I, the colored troops were sent to France, because the Americans did not want them. The Rainbow Division, as you pointed out. And so they were sent to France, but France took them, and welcomed them. They even fought to get them because they had the ability to throw hand grenades like baseball accurately.
Accurately, yeah.
And France went wild again.
So they integrated into the French army.
And the French army.
I see.
Yes, every unit wanted one because they could
Yeah.
throw a hand grenade accurately, and they wound up.
Sure.
And now when the war ended, World War I ended, France brought the troops back, and France paid for a parade. You got Noble Sissel and all the other group in there, but France paid for it, not the United States. And when World War II came along, they had the colored troops that fought under Southern officers. Not the 93rd. 93rd went to the Pacific. The 25th, 368, and 369th Infantry went to the Pacific. I don't know. They used them pretty much as port operations or security operations, not as combat. The Bufalos went to, which were primarily Southern troops who had very difficult discipline problems in dealing with colored officers and colored soldiers versus white officers who were all in command. And some of the white officers tell them, you don't have to take orders from that colored officer. That was one of the biggest problems we had, and a lot of court martials over it. And plus, General Almond did not want any West Pointers. He got rid of West Pointers that were assigned to his operation.
So there were black officers in combat.
In combat, but lower ranking.
Oh, you mean like sergeants or
were
there any lieutenants?
In Officer Canada School, which we went to, was integrated.
Okay.
Fully integrated.
All right.
But they were taught that the three C's, and but they were all assigned. Well, some of them went to the 93rd. I don't know what happened to them, but the 92nd, I know about because when I first got my commission, I was assigned to the Air Corps and Air Base training and so forth. And then when they disbanded the Air Corps, I went to the Buffalo Soldiers. But I was made first lieutenant over there with that. But the orders from the War Department, because you had George C. Marshall Southern, is that all colored officers would be lieutenants, regardless of rank or position. When I was the Air Corps, I had a job position that was equal to a major. I was second lieutenant. When I went to the Buffalo Soldier, as a regimental adjutant, as a captain, I was second lieutenant. And as a munitions officer, I was a captain, second lieutenant. Supply officer battalion supply officer was a major, second lieutenant. I made first lieutenant then, but you were not allowed by War Department orders to advance beyond that stage.
Okay, well, let's back up here. I want to kind of get a little chronological going here. Okay, so December 7th comes along, Pearl Harbor, so you're Fort Huachuca. So just tell me, so what happened next in your life? What did you...
I went to Officers Canada School.
Okay.
Right after. I made first sergeant, and then I made master sergeant, regimental sergeant major, and then I went to Officers Canada School.
And where was that?
In Fort Benning, Georgia.
Okay.
And I was there in the class with the governor of North Carolina, a lot of principals. It was a special class.
And it was integrated?
Integrated, yes.
Okay.
And I was always the second in command of all the problems. The governor of North Carolina was always the company commander, and I was always the executive in all the problems. But I was a master sergeant. But
so how did you get along with? How did everybody get along?
No problem at all. We commanded. I mean, when you're an officer, you don't care anything about rank, rate. Well, you care about rank, only rank. Just like my lieutenant colonel was my niece. I saluted her, But other than that, no. But orders. If you're private, you got the hell out. You moved, and we were rated very heavily on our ability to command troops, not because of race, creed, or color, but troop command.
And did you have white troops under you?
Yes.
Okay.
We had. But the companies were integrated.
Okay. And did any of them resent the fact that you were telling them what to do?
No,
That you knew?
no. And that's all in all. It was. Now it was a guy named Miller from Evansville. I was living in Nogales, Arizona then. So, we had no problem, no racial problem. No racial, just that training that they give you is so disciplined that you don't, all you know is a man that's just going to fight. You know, fight. And you better take his orders or you'd hit him. You can't do that now. You can't do it.
Yeah.
So rank means everything.
Okay, so how long were you at Benning then?
4 months. I just took a little command work on top of it. After I got 90-day wonder. Here lies, and so we were the raggedy ass cadets of West Point. That was what we had a regular song about the raggedy ass cadets are on parade. But we did, in 90 days we got a commission. And West Point is 4 years. So we were raggedy ass cadets. We had a regular song. We were proud of that song we sang, and the West Pointers understood. They understood what we were doing. And
so where'd you go from there, from Benning?
I went to the Air Corps, and which is very, very strange. People said that the Air Corps did not have any infantry, but they did. They had air base security units.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, but they disbanded them right in 43. I think we disbanded them.
Had the
Buffalo soldier.
No, the black airmen,
Tuskegee Airmen.
Tuskegee, had that started yet?
They were in the process of starting it, but you had to have, and I got my flight set up under when they first started it, but you had to have a college degree or an advanced degree, even to be a janitor. Even to be a janitor, you had to have it. And that was the greatest thing in the world. I respected it. That's why I made up my mind I was going back to college. With my children. By the time I lost my wife, it was rough going to college because I was 5 children, but I always remembered that. That's the biggest reason. But that was why you had to have it. Now what's it called, Speed Nichols, the parachutists, they started operating too.
Mm.
And about the time, but they didn't go into combat. They just went into northern continent and fought the Japanese bombs, balloons, and so forth.
And okay, so from the Air Corps, then where did you go?
I went to the Buffalo Soldiers, back to Fort Huachuca.
Okay.
And
that's your 92nd.
92nd Division.
Infantry Division. Okay.
Now, as you know, the 92nd Division was the only division in the history, I think, of our country that ever had a headquarters in Alabama, a regiment in Little Rock, Arkansas, a regiment in Camp Atterbury, Indiana, and a regiment in Kentucky. I can't think of the
Fort Campbell or
what the hell that is?
no.
It wasn't Fort Knott, but it was in somewhere in Kentucky.
Yeah, my uncle was there.
Oh.
Down in, is it by Henderson?
Yes.
Yeah, Camp Atterbury? No.
No, Atterbury's Indiana.
And then, I'll think of it pretty soon.
Campbell? Was it Campbell?
Well, Fort Campbell was 101st Airborne. I think it was Airborne. That was down further.
But I know there was.
Yeah, I know.
There was one in Kentucky.
Yeah, my uncle went there.
And yet, you see, you had the commanding general was in Alabama. You've never had the biggest rip-off of mileage allowances and subsidies and all that was terrific for General Alman. Now, General Alman, who was the commanding general, was not the general of choice of the Army. The general was General Colburn, who was well liked. General Alman was hated. But General Alman took a sick leave, and he came back. But General Alman was George Marshall's brother-in-law. George Marshall's brother-in-law.
Okay.
And in combat, Mark Clark relieved General Alman 3 different times. He's always brought back by Marshall. But at the end, I'll explain something that happened by that though. From that, there was always good results in the long run. If you just play it.
Yeah.
But
okay, so so you're back at Fort Huachuca, and so are you company commander or something like that? What would you?
I was the regimental adjutant for a while, and assistant and then regimental, assistant and regimental supply, and the regimental munitions officer. That was a captain, still second lieutenant.
Mm-hmm. And did you go overseas from there pretty soon?
I went overseas about a year later. Went over. I'd been overseas on special duties, but no, this time I went over in 44 with the 92nd. I had a colonel's picture in it. He's a general, brigadier general, Milton Presley, who I was his clerk when he was a regimental adjutant of 38th Infantry back in 41. And as he went up, I kind of went up along with him all the way. And he told me as long as he was alive, I'd never go overseas. But he went overseas and got killed. He got killed in July, and in August I got orders to proceed quickly when his file was exposed. But I was a master sergeant, and I was first lieutenant then.
And so did you go on a troop ship or something when you went over?
I went on a Liberty ship. It was 37 days because of the submarine bombing. So, and Friday the 13th, when we were on our way, they spotted a submarine. And of course, all our troops were all a little excited, because of the submarine in the area. But the Germans were smart. They didn't touch us that night. I mean, everybody was alert, because of superstition, Friday the 13th.
Oh, really?
But on the 14th, and our ship always broke down, and they would leave you until the next day. And we were left. We were way in the back, and a submarine came right in between us and hit a tanker and split the tanker. Split the ship on each side, went down, and you could hear the people screaming, all the hot oil and burning, and nothing you could do but sit there and keep quiet. But I don't know if they ever got the sub or not. I know there was a lot of people looking for it, but we were getting the hell out of there.
What port did you go to? What port did you end up in?
Viareggio.
Correct.
Viareggio.
Which is?
That's northern Italy.
Northern
Italy. No, not central Italy.
Okay.
That's north of Pisa, Marina di Pisa.
Oh yeah.
We went to North Africa first.
Okay.
And we had spent a little time in Sicily, and also in Monte Cassino.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was this after they had bombed Monte
when they
Cassino?
were bombing.
When they were bombing it.
Yeah, when part of that battle.
Yeah.
But then we went into the Battle of Rome and we went there to cut off the Germans from going north.
Yeah.
And
did you have your chaplains? Were they black or white or both?
Chaplains were black. Yeah, they were.
Did you have any Catholic black chaplains?
No. Now I was fortunate in that I was a Catholic.
Yes.
And I was at a position on the staff. But most of my time was on the staff. But I made 3 trips down to take troops to visit the Pope. I visited his museum. He's got a fantastic museum. If you ever got a chance to go,
Yeah. Pope Pius XII, I guess, was that time.
But
yeah.
Pope Pius XII wasn't that really that well liked.
He was kind of an ascetic. He wasn't real charismatic. I don't think.
He was. Well,
They
I guess if I'd been a pope under those circumstances, I probably would have done the same thing. At least he saved the church, because that was a problem of saving it, and he did. But he wasn't the most well-liked pope.
Yeah, I think they wished he would have come down harder on Mussolini and Hitler,
That's true.
But I think, well, from what I've read too, is that you didn't know a lot that was going on where a lot of the Catholics took care of the Jewish people.
Yeah, they helped them a lot, but there was a lot of in the cathedral there was a lot of pro-Germans too.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of pro-Germans. Like I say, the Pope today was a parachutist. So he fought against me. That's a hell of a thing to say, but he was there. But he's a good fighter.
Okay, I think I'm going to change tape here right now. We'll take just a little break here.
Are you taking notes? Are you a spy?
How about another little sip?
Are you recording?
I'm recording it and immediately sending it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Put something in that water.
Yeah. Okay.
Pretty good, though. Had it not been for my niece, all this stuff would have been in my line.
Choose this one. Okay, I meant to ask you, like I say, because I'm Catholic too, your parents, were they both Catholic? How was it that your family was all Catholic?
My father was part Jewish, but he joined the Catholic Church first.
Did he?
And then my mother joined. My mother's strongly Protestant, and she joined too. But I can remember, off the record, I can remember how she used to cook steaks on Friday. Towards my father. I was back in about 22 or 23, and then she straightened out. Then she became a nut. You know?
Yeah.
She and Monsignor ride. Well, we lived on 8th Street right there, close to something, you know.
Right.
She and Monsignor ride used to fight all the time.
Yeah, those converts, they usually. Okay, so so now you're okay. Was Rome already occupied when you got there, or were
They were fighting it.
They were fighting in there. Okay. And had you seen any combat by this time? By the time you got to Rome?
Very little. Very little.
And what was your job right then? Your duty?
Supply, battalion supply.
Okay.
And now, getting to combat, you keep asking that question. I was on staff all the way, and regimental sergeant major, you know, first adjutant and all that staff set up. So most of my wartime was staff. But in order to get beyond the promotion, I had a history of S1, S2, S3, S4, I know everything about that, except no command. So they sent me down to get the commando training. You had to get it 3 months, and I would have been promoted battalion executive. Because I had the 1, 2, 3, and 4, everything else under control. But I had to have 3 months of combat. And as a poem in the officer's candidate, it's a story about here lies the bones of Lieutenant Jones, a graduate of this institution, who went out like a fight, out like a light in his first fight, because he used the school solution. So I got my butt kicked badly. My second big battle, I got my butt kicked. I got a fractured spine. I was locked up, I was hospitalized for 3 months.
Well, what happened?
In a battle, and we got tank battle and rifle battle on a patrol, and got locked in the fight with the Germans, and I got my spine fractured. Got a couple other bad shots, but you know, just that I knew all the answers and I knew the school solution, but you gotta have
Experience.
You gotta have that experience.
So you were, well, where did that happen?
Up in the Northern Alps on March 8th, 1945. Cold. Germans cutting my clothes, cutting me up pretty badly in a knife fight when I got it.
And you were,
Pretty hard.
were you, were you still in supply?
No, I was glad. I had gone down to get experience for get that command
Oh,
training.
okay. And so you were, and what rank were you still lieutenant?
First lieutenant.
First lieutenant. And did you have guys under you, or?
Oh yeah, oh yes.
You had a platoon or a
I
squad?
had a whole company.
Whole company.
Yeah, the whole company. I was trying to get some command. All I need was a little of that command on my record.
And what kind of weapons were you carrying? What did you carry?
.03 rifle, a pistol, and Thompson sub.
Yeah.
But I had to supply connections. So, well.
Yeah. And did you have a machine gun squad in your company too?
Yes, it was machine gun. It was a regular machine gun squad.
Uh-huh.
But just near the end, we caught the Germans running in. We ran the trap, and
They had,
and
okay.
the shell landed about as far from here to you. It was a dud. You know, you open my radio here, get calling on your radio, and so I opened that radio for about 2 seconds, well, about a minute, about 10 seconds maybe, just to say where I was. And there's a damn, about that big, landed right about here to there. But it was a dud.
Well, you wouldn't be here after that. So, did your company, did you get in almost hand-to-hand combat
Oh, it
with
was
the
hand-to-hand
Germans?
combat.
Was it? Okay.
Yes, hand to hand.
And were the Germans, were they surprised to see black soldiers? They
Oh, no,
ended up fighting, or
they'd been used to it.
they'd been used to it.
I went on a patrol out of Chincola Canal, and they told me about you caught up to get your black ass out of here. And we know where you are. And I was under my umbrella,
Poncho?
umbrella, poncho. And he said, I know where you are. And about that time, a damn rock hit me right on the shoulder. Some of the Germans were a little tired. I mean, they were near the end of the war. They were a little tired, but
Yeah.
that rock hit me on the shoulder. I said, yeah, what are you going to do, Lieutenant? I said, you know what the man said, get the hell out of here. So we jumped up. And they hit that Chincola Canal for about 15 minutes. I mean, every 6 inches there was a bomb, a shell in it. But we were looking for a place to land it, to make the final invasion of the northern trip at the end of the war. We needed a spot in the Chincola Canal. It was north of, up in the North Pole Valley.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we were around Bologna here.
So when you got wounded then, did a shell land close to you, or did you get shot, or what?
Shell landed.
Okay.
Shell landed.
Were those German 88s, or was it a
88,
mortar? Or?
88.
Oh,
And they took me to, I was reported missing in action, but the partisans, paisanos, had taken me back, and 2 days later they took me to the hospital. But they were a couple of them, some of them were attached to our unit, and they got along pretty good with them, except that Italians weren't that good of fighters. You know, I saw them when they quit, you know, and it's pretty hard to see a man with.
We know what the Italian salute is, don't we?
Yeah. What the fella tell you now?
Are you Italian?
No, but what the fella tell you, the neighbor, the guy down the street from us.
That's right.
Yeah, he said, Italian salute.
But until now I hear why.
Yeah, because they gave it. Right. So, were you unconscious then?
Yes, I was unconscious for 2 days.
Did you lose much blood?
But
Lose much blood? Did you
quite
get
no,
cut up
not
pretty good? Not
too
so
much.
much.
Just I had a lot of clothes on. I always wore a lot
Probably
of clothes.
concussion too. Was
Yeah,
probably
the
a big
concussion,
part.
and it hit the 14th, 13th, and 14th vertebra, right down the lower, right in here. There's a cave in where they got me. But I was cut a few times during that German outfit. I got him, but
Oh, you had a knife fight too?
Yeah, knife
With-
fight. It was a
in the
knife
same in that same.
same battle,
Top,
yeah.
same deal.
And I don't like knives. I can remember I had married a woman that told me, and I made 3 trips back across the country. Well, I tell you, I was in and out
Right.
She said, your eyes may water, your teeth may grit, but none of me are you going to get. And I thought she was the most intelligent woman in the world. So when I made that third trip before I took my marriage license back there, and I married her. So I know what it is, but she says, if you ever get to me, we're going to do some Kentucky fighting. Tennessee fighting. Tennessee fighting, you got hand and a knife.
Right.
And she
David
had long pencils like that. I was staff sergeant. And I'm still scared to death of that. I wish she cut my shirt. I mean, she marked my shirt up. So I kept trying to tell that German, look, let me get the hell out of here. And I want to fight you. Back up. And he was speaking English, very good English.
Huh.
But he was calling me, hey, he looks like Schwarzenegger. And every time I see him, I want to, I'm going to say, that's why I have to be careful. I'm going to say what I was going to do. But every time I see him, it reminds me of that German.
Arnold.
About as big and this was. But he wasn't a coward like Arnold. Arnold's a big blowhard.
So how did that fight end then? You and this guy?
Oh, they said I killed him.
You did?
I killed him. I got his Purple Heart. I got his German Luger at the house.
So, had you had knife training in the service, or how did you?
Oh yeah, well you get all of that type of training, but being on the staff, you didn't have that opportunity to do. And I hope to this day I never wanted it. I'll fight with a bullet, with a gun. I can back up. I can move forward. But knives, I don't like that knife fighting. Yeah. But I had to. I got him.
You had to do what you had to do.
But I'm not gonna say I was brave when I got him. But I would have run if I had a chance. But he wouldn't let me run. He was taller than me, and she had to go down low. And I got him.
Got in underneath his defenses.
No, I got him, but I bit his ear off. I bit his ear off. I sure did. His mouth went right past. And 50 years later, I had calls coming in from all over the country. The people that knew me had heard me say, well, I bit the guy's ear off. When Patton,
Tyson?
Bit that, yeah, I got a call.
Hollifield's ear.
Yeah, but I bit the whole, I hung on, he shook me like and they just pulled my teeth about 6 months ago. The kitten out, I want to keep them teeth forever, but right here.
Don't get any knife fights now.
No, I run.
Your teeth.
I can't bite anybody.
Yeah.
But no, like I said, I'm not proud. I'm not brave. It was just a necessity. And I don't know what the hell I was thinking about, because I won't eat any gristle. I don't want any fat on me, no gristle.
So, where did they take you to Rome, to the hospital, or where did you?
33rd General Hospital in Viareggio.
Okay.
That's where, in the same hospital, during that period of time between January and May, when the war ended in May, Bob Dole, Senator Anaway, Senator George Mitchell, and George Edwards were all as lieutenants in that hospital at some different time. Well, Bob Dole was second lieutenant, I think. Senator Anaway, I believe, was the second. They made first. And Mitchell was first, and I was the first. So,
I knew about those other guys. I didn't realize George Mitchell was there too.
He was in the battle.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's just a strange thing that that many people were involved in the 10th Mountain.
Yeah.
And of course, anyway, with the 442nd, but they joined us.
Yeah.
And then that book that I brought over that you're looking at mentions it.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, Senator Anaway says, I got more black blood in me than anybody else around I ever know, because he had about 14 injuries. He was, and the blood was black blood.
Mm-hmm.
So he told me, I got more black blood in me than you got. He pointed to the black slums because he got so many pints of it.
It's interesting. There's, you may want to see it sometime. We have a little, it's about a 10-minute, it's a DVD of Frank Sinatra back in 1945. He sings a little song, and then there's some kids. They're kind of fighting and little interration. You know, they're picking on a Jewish boy, and there's a black kid, and that kind of stuff. And so he gets them down, sets them down. He said, because the war is going on, and he's telling about what's happening. And he said, now, do you have a relative in the war? He said, yeah, my dad is. And they said, and he was wounded somewhere or another. And he said, well, if your dad was wounded and needed blood, and the blood they had was from his father, who's a black kid, do you think he would let him give it to him? And it really brought the point home that we're all the same. You know?
Yeah, but that time, that little kid had said no.
Well, maybe. But I mean, if his dad was going to die, I think he maybe would have changed his mind.
But now I want to talk about the Korean War, and that'll close out my story. I was very bitter. Oh yes.
Oh, wait. Okay, well,
Yes,
we'll get to Korea. Let's kind of finish this up. Okay, so you go to the hospital. How long were you there?
Hospital, almost 3 months.
Okay.
I was at the hospital at the end. They discharged me 2 days after the war ended.
In Europe
March,
or
April, May, huh?
the war in Europe? Yeah.
In
Okay.
Italy.
Yeah.
March,
And
April, May. Yes, 3 months.
and then where did you go from there?
I went to. Regrettably, I had the highest number of points in the division, and this is very. And there were 50 colored officers, all with high points. Now, you know, they told you that the War Department order was you will be a lieutenant, you will be nothing higher. Now, there was a 366 Infantry that had some, that was attached to us at the end of the war, that had lieutenant colonels, and majors, and captains, and so forth. And there was one of the captains, and 14 of the others were put on boxcars and shipped on the same train from northern Italy, 3 days in boxcars to Naples. Now, in the middle of that train were German soldiers under guard riding in coach. And on the tail end of that train were German officers. Now, we're the victorious. We won the battle. We won the war. And I had a chance to tell them that when the German officers were honoring us in Italy in October last year. The train, I was in Florence, Italy, when that big, beautiful train came down, and I told them, look over there, that's a beautiful train, and this is what happened. There was some army there too, dedicated. But they made us come down there and with German officers in Pullman, under guard, all the way to Naples. Now we got some we landed at the Depot in Naples. We were sent one way, and they were sent another way, and another way. But we were sent in boxcars. Now that was done because by Southern command. That was Marshall. I mean, that was a command. The command. It wasn't Mark Clark. Mark Clark was a good general. Mark Clark saved our lives. Mark Clark, that's an article in his book, but which most people don't know. But I was in there. I was a battalion officer when Allman ordered the Tuskegee Airmen to bomb F Company during an attack. And see, the Captain Cook was the commanding officer at that time. And that's why he made captain, because Allman had him bombed. He had used the 3 C's and had gotten in position, and they chased the Germans out. And Allman didn't understand. We looked in the mirror and he thought they were behind, so he called himself bombing them to keep them moving. But they were already there, so he bombed company command, bombed the G Company. That's why Captain Cook made captain, only to keep the lips shut. And it's in that book. But no, but they did send us down there, and then we got there to Naples, and we're supposed to come back on the plane. Well, the President waxed up there. pregnant officers, naval officers got that. And then they sent us back on the big West Pointer, and the pregnant blacks and pregnant women got that one, bumped us there. So we ended up coming back on a Liberty ship, same one we went over on. And we got to New York, they lined up big ships. I repeat, they lined up big ships deliberately. Now, they may want to court-martial me for saying this, but deliberately. And they lined us, and we came in with our little Liberty ships. They made sure we did not see the Statue of Liberty. Oh, that makes me sure of that. So they took us right to New Jersey, and they shipped us back. And when we got off, the orders were issued that all colored combat troops, repeat, colored combat troops, would go to Fort McClellan, Alabama, for an American, after we take you 30 days leave, and then report to Fort McClellan, Alabama, for a 3-month American reorientation course or training. Colored troops, colored officers down in Alabama being reoriented to the United States. That was a hell of a damn slap at us. I mean, that was the worst slap we got. So I did my 3 months, and fortunately the war was over. But I got in my car and drove back to Indiana, got my wife and children, and I didn't stop driving until I got to Tijuana. And that's why I ended up in Chula Vista. I couldn't find a place, I ended up in Chula Vista. I stayed for years, but maybe.
Okay, and let me back, because I meant to get into this, but I didn't. Let's go back to when you were in high school. Did you have any girlfriends when you were in high school?
Oh, yes, yes, I had. Edwards, we had a lot. I had no problem with it.
Anybody really special in high school that you can remember?
No, yeah, one of them beat me. One of them about 4 feet, about 6 feet tall. The girlfriend beat me with a damn pocketbook, and then I ran, I thought, and she kicked me. So I never look at big, tall women. She actually kicked me, outran me and kicked me. I was a senior in high school then. And that was the last of dealing with tall women.
That was that. So this young lady that taught you about the knife and stuff, where did you meet her, and what was her name?
Her name is Helen Williamson from Tennessee. I met her as a blind date. I knew her sister.
Did you meet her in Evansville?
I met her in Evansville at the Albert Cervelle. It had a big dance hall out there in that part of town.
Yeah.
And she lived on Maryland, 602 East Maryland. And I met her as a so-called a blind date.
Yeah.
And I can remember the night I met her because she had on high heel slippers, you know, tennis country girl walking. Wiggle when she walked, and I got
Wiggle
stuck.
in her walk, giggle in her talk.
Yeah. I got stuck with her. It turned out to be real good. We married in October, my birthday. So I don't celebrate my birthday in '41. But I went in the Army first, and I married her then. And
when you were overseas, did you write? Do you have any of those letters that you wrote back?
Yes, they're all in the box right at the house. Most of them, 90% of them.
I like to have at least a couple. Pick out a couple. I like to have copies of those to add to your story too.
And
That's always
strange enough about those letters, my baby daughter was born after I came back. And at the mother, and sometimes within the last 50 years, she got one of those letters and taped it and had a copy it. And it stated that I would take care of my wife, regardless of what anything happened, I'd take care of her. And since Chiquita, her name is Chiquita, she's a CPA. She was director of the LA Volunteers of America. So she's just retired. She lives a big home here in town. But she's had that letter, and she showed it to me about 2 years ago. In a secret way, the way to try to find out. So she knew then, because she always had a feeling that I knew the mother when I was in the service. I had that relationship. And here she comes along a couple of years later, and she was suspicious of my attitude was going to be different, but after she read the letter, she left a copy of it. But now how she ever got it, it's just so strange. I suddenly see a letter and points out, I'll take care of her.
Yeah. So, and your wife, while you were overseas, what was she doing?
Raising babies.
In Evansville?
And no, Nogales, Arizona.
Oh, okay. So you.
I got her the hell out of Evansville a month later.
I see. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, I didn't want to. Evansville wasn't a town to live in.
Yeah. And okay, so how many children did you have then?
I had 4 girls, and she died with a little boy. She died with a little boy.
How old was she when she died?
30.
And the girls, what are their names?
The oldest is Helen Pipkin. She's a senior vice president of the 99-cent store chain.
Here? Oh.
And all over.
All over.
They're big in Texas. They're big out
Where
here.
does she live, though?
She lives in. She has a home in Los Angeles, and she has a home in PG West and out here in the Coachella Valley in La Quinta. And Carmelita Edwards, she's with a law firm, a CPA firm in Long Beach. She's retired. She'll be retiring next year, coming back over here. Dorothy Joseph, she was this first vice president of the First American Bank. One of the big saving loans. The big saving loan that George Bush's son was convicted. He was convicted too of being involved in a big fraud setup where he got all that millions of dollars. And Dorothy was she was the first vice president of the bank. And then she went back and joined the RTC to try as a CPA. She's a CPA to try to put him in jail. And she was really hurt when they only fined him $75,000. She was really hurt over that. So now she's the assistant dean of one of the business colleges, universities in Colorado. And Chiquita is the youngest. She just recently retired. She lives in Cathedral City, and she was she's a CPA. Most of them are CPAs of banking, and she raises dogs pretty much.
How many grandchildren do you have? 7
grandchildren and 7 great-grandchildren.
Okay, so let's back up then again to. Okay. Well, while we're at it though, like I say, the other day your sister was here and her daughter, and the daughter's a lieutenant colonel. That must make you pretty proud to have.
Very proud. Very proud.
Tell me a little bit about her.
Well, I didn't know about her until about 6 months ago, 6 or 8 months ago. I didn't know I had any family that was in the military. And I have 4 daughters who won't talk about the military. They threw away my Purple Heart. After mother died, they threw away everything. People told them that, I was young. I was 34 then. But get rid of everything in dealing with the father so he could go out and get married. And of course, the church was a little hard on me on that. Because I agreed, I thought, I went to jail a couple of times to hold on to my children. I had cancer, and yet I was still determined to raise them. And they wanted to put the oldest two girls in not a monastery, but in a home for orphanage, Catholic orphanage. The 2 youngest ones in an orphanage, and my little boy in one of the rest of those specialized hospitals because he was totally spastic. But he lived for 12 years. He lived about the same number of years that my wife and I were married. Just about a few months difference. But I raised him and we kept him at home until he died. He died in the house. But the church was a little bit hard on me for a long, long time about that. Because I was doing more harm than good by trying to hold on to him, but I was depression and I was in rough times. But I had a good practice. I carried my little boy in my car, and I did a good job of carrying him, going to work. I had the type of clientele in La Jolla. You'll see in that article how I did real good. But I had clients that paid me. In La Jolla, those people are all wealthy, but they don't pay their doctor. They don't pay the grocery bill or the clothing bill until they'll walk in a big store and buy $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000 worth of things and take off. I'm buying them because I'm going to Switzerland for 2 years. And they don't pay until they come back. And then they turn around and pick another $10,000, $4,000, or $5,000 and take off. But the two people that they do always pay is their lawyer and their accountant. I had no bad debts, no problems with my money was always there. So that's why I know all this. Now you'll see some articles in there, who's who in America, and I also know those.
I saw those.
And that's primarily for one reason. That was the fact that I was able to raise those children with cancer, put them all through college, and all of them got they criticize, but my daughters criticize me now, but none of them showed up pregnant until after they had gotten married. And I used to have been with doctors. I had a medical management consultant set up. I could get Kotex and by big boxes, and I used to put it on a shelf in the corner. And I had a little thin scale, and about 3 or 4 times a month I'd crawl on my belly when they weren't looking to sleep, and watching the damn scale, making sure something was vanishing. I went through hell. And the women would call and say, "Oh, I had a dream that your daughters had gotten pregnant." Well, I said, "Well, now that sounds kind of rough, but at least all I could do with it is take care of them." But now, then it got so bad that I said, "Now look, that's not what's going to worry me most. Is that at least they're not. See, some of you older women know my little kids had no mother. You may take advantage of them and swing them on the wrong side of the fence." And that's what worried me more than anything else. That's what I would be really worried about. So then they hang up on me. And they got to where in Chula Vista, they stop and want to check the clothes. What did you eat? Check the clothes. So I work with the police department. I'm a part of the police service down there. And police started arresting 2 or 3 big women down there because they were molested. And that stopped all of that. Checked on the clothes, check the clothes, hit the clean, and for what they ate and all that. And that's why the welfare system in California is so bad, because they gave me hell. I mean, I went to jail once I was jumping rope, jeopardizing their health. I went there, but I was had a rough life raising, but I told, but strangely, I had an Aztec housekeeper named Dolores, and she brought me back a jug of raicilla, which is a Mexican drink, strong Mexican drink, a little jug about that big. So I put it over the window, and then I got from Tijuana a couple of little cigarette ashtrays with little dancing girls, the flag waving and things. And then I haven't had a daughter that was a little nosy. So I had this German Luger. So I put the German Luger on the table. Magazines on one side, there's a big flower pot, a little development, something in the center of the table. A German Luger on the second. What the hell could I do? Where could I hide a German Luger? So, and I got to go out and work, and I got the little boy. So the only thing I could do was just trust the luck, and I put that Luger on the other side, other side. And I used to tell him, if you don't want to get involved with your husband, to get involved with that, you keep him away from that liquor. From the liquor, it goes to the swinging girls, and somebody gets shot. And if you ask any of my daughters, they'll tell you this to this day. That was 4 of them that drill constantly. But what the hell else could I do? And I don't know. It scares the hell out of me now when I think about what people say about guns and kids. It scares the hell out of me. But I didn't know it wasn't nothing else to do. But it worked out.
Well, okay, I want to back up here now. So you left Evansville when you got out of the service, and you drove to Tijuana.
Yes.
And then in Chula Vista is
yes.
where you ended up. How long? You were just visiting Tijuana? What were you doing in Tijuana?
I was going to Tijuana. I was so sick of it. Look, You go over there and fight a war and come back with a Purple Heart. I mean, injured. It didn't wasn't a Purple Heart, but it wasn't Purple Heart at that time didn't mean anything. But I was to come back and be sent to a reorientation course in America. So that's why I went to Tijuana. I was close to just to get the hell out of the country. I wanted good temperature. And San Diego turned out to be the spot. But then I was in the newspaper business when I left there. I was assistant news editor of the Evansville Argus newspaper.
What year was that then?
In 1940.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was assistant editor. I was a news editor of the Evansville Argus. And so I talked to Holder, his owner, and had him to come to San Diego. San Diego looked like a big town with a nice paper. But San Diego had too many people who didn't want to read. Yeah. So I went back to college to get my degree. I left it and went back to college.
Where'd you go to college?
San Diego State. Mm-hmm. And I got my degree.
And you were living in Chula Vista?
In Chula Vista.
I was a dental officer in the Navy for 6 years, and the last 2 I was stationed at North Island.
North Island,
and
yeah.
I lived in Chula Vista, in that, or south of Chula, actually Otay Mesa, which was just...
Well, I'm Quintard. I'm just about the division between Otay Mesa and
Chula Vista. Yeah.
You're getting tired. But just sort of Quintard, Hilltop Drive and Quintard.
I see. Yeah.
And two of my children were all of them were honor graduates. And
and you was you a business major at San Diego State?
Banking and economics.
Okay. And then you became a CPA?
Public accountant.
Okay.
I had all the practice there, the test and everything, but I had no reason. I had put the state of California offered the returning veterans at that time an opportunity to take additional courses, 4 years in accounting, and then instead of the 2 years, you had to work 2 years under a CPA, and that was for $75 to $100 a month. But they gave us the opportunity, because I know we all had families, to work 4 years, take advanced accounting, and that supplemented our training. So they gave us public accounting as a result of that. But then we had time just to do our time and training for a couple of years, and then we could apply and get our CPA. But my wife was dead, and I just...
Did you ever remarry?
No, I never remarried. No, I never remarried.
And your girls, were you living in Chula Vista? Did you raise them all in Chula Vista at the same place, pretty much?
On Hilltop Drive in Quintard, yeah.
Where did they go to high school?
One went to Chula Vista High, and then graduated three of them graduated from Castle Park, from Hilltop High. One graduated, I lived right across the street from the Castle Park, right across the street in front of it. And she was the, named Chiquita, and she was the charge of finance, the student director of finance. And Chiquita Banana used to send out a 2-pound pack of bananas every day and put them in her box, because she hated bananas. And of course the teacher loved her because they get the bananas. And then when she went to college, they checked on her closely. They had a big banana right at the college, at the Long Beach State. Big brown, she was mad. She used to fight, Chiquita Banana, she'd tag her with it. She keeps her afraid.
I have a grandson going to Long Beach State now.
Yeah, well,
it's really
nice
school.
She got her CPA at once.
Now, did you raise them Catholic too, the girls?
Yes, they were all raised. I could say, if it had not been for one factor, I would have gotten rid of all of it. But that one factor is I can remember as a child what they did to help the slaves. Mm-hmm. And I knew a lot of slaves. I went to school with some slaves and slave children. And what they did, own a religion that did anything to help the slaves, the Catholics. Kikes, Coons, and Catholics with a K.
Yeah. And your wife, was she Catholic too, or did
She married a Catholic.
she became, and then went to church with you and stuff?
Yeah.
And what parish down in Chula
St.
Vista?
Rosa Lima. In fact, I used to coach a little school down there when I was going to college.
That's it?
St. Rosa Lima.
And when did you first start coming to the desert here? To Palm Springs area?
1938.
Oh,
See, I
that's
told you I
right.
was going to CCC and I'd
Right.
come back.
Oh, they came out here?
Come out Tijuana, Nogales.
Yeah?
I see. There was Dorothy L'Amour, Carmen Miranda, and one other girl that, in our days, I was going to see them. And so I ended up in Tijuana with Nogales or some southern,
Yeah.
some southern town. And I ended up, when I met my wife, they were singing South of the Border. That was a song.
Oh, okay.
And I ended up
Mexico.
marrying her, and ended up, we moved to Nogales, south of the border. Just such a strange circumstance that
Yeah.
caused us to end up down Nogales. And 3 of them were born in Nogales. So,
But when did you start coming to Palm Springs?
I was kidnapped. I was living in Lake Havasu, Arizona. And my daughters, I had, they ruled I had prostate cancer. And I was living overlooking the London Bridge. But I was up there in 1941 when we did guard duty in Boulder Dam, Parker Dam, and here and all this whole area. So I knew that area and I liked it up there. But they kidnapped me, brought me. I had enough clothing to go to an overnight at the State Line Casino. And they were my grandson and his girlfriend kidnapped me and brought me here. Put me in Desert Princess Country Club. They had a place. But they warned everybody that the father was a renegade, so they all knew.
Well, let me put it this way. When did you retire from your business down in Chula Vista?
From Chula Vista, 1976.
And did you stay there for a while? Or
No, I just became a bum. I used to drive all the way down to Mexico. I knew every, excuse the expression, I knew every house between Tijuana and Panama. I'd be driving by myself all down there. I knew every. But I raised my children first.
Okay.
So when I left there, I just
And
went all
so
the way.
you just went all around for how many years did you do that?
About 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess maybe longer than that. I don't know. I did a little extra work on the side, but not much. But I still got a lot of reserve time in there, no pay, but special work.
And so how long were you living in Lake Havasu before you came down?
15 years.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
And what, did you work up there too, or did you do anything
No,
just?
I've been retired.
Did you have any?
I learned how to budget, like I'm teaching her now. I account for all of my money.
Oh, twins.
I spend it now. I
Yeah.
spend it. I had a hell of a time, and when I went to Italy, I mean, I top dollar. I go top dollar.
Mm-hmm.
But I know how to kind of control it. And I got land out here in Geronimo Stronghold. It's a map right on the last piece of paper there.
Oh.
I had, and Geronimo Stronghold and.
Is that in Arizona?
No, it's in California.
California. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Geronimo Stronghold, Pancho Villa's set up. I was the Buffalo soldiers. Did they fight? They fought Pancho Villa and Geronimo.
Right. Yeah.
And I got land out there, real beautiful, so quiet and peaceful out there. I own Sidewinder Canyon. And you know what Sidewinders are.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them there.
Yeah.
Did you have any hobbies? Did you play golf or sports?
I played golf at the Torrey Pine North Pole.
Yeah.
And one other thing, I was in a partnership with Russ French, Boston graduate. His father was the surgeon, chief surgeon at the Evansville Health Department. It was on Gum Street. for years, and then and Jerry Somm, he owned his Somm hardware store. Jerry and I became friends when I was carrying newspapers. I used to play football with Billy Hillenbrand, Bob Purnett, and I was
Evansville Express.
Yeah, I was played ball out there with them, and they went to see my father. Rode bicycle down there to get him to sign permission for me to play football. My mother wouldn't let me, so they rode the bicycle down there, and I had a chance to go to Rice Memorial then, because they wanted me to play football. But I knew Billy, and I remember the big Purdue fire, the big blooming, they were killed. Tommy Purnett and Billy Hill, Tommy Hillenbrand, I believe it was. Two of them were killed.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You didn't know that? Oh, the big fire, Purdue. And there was a big water room fire. Two of the boys were killed.
Oh.
And Tommy, but Billy became a coach later on.
Yeah, Billy played at IU.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Tommy and Tommy Purnett. Purnett had a drugstore on Lincoln and one block north of Evans Avenue. Purnett drugstore pharmacy. So, but I played ball with all of them. I got along in Evansville. I got along pretty good. But I could run. I had to run from Oakdale. I'd go to Oakdale, boy, and they'd run me all the way back. And I had to carry newspapers out there, right to the border, right at Riverside Drive, Paul, and all that.
So what year was that you came here to Desert Princess?
10 years.
About 10 years now.
10 years, yeah.
Okay. I want this young lady, Elizabeth, I want you to come over here and sit down by this gentleman.
I wanted one thing, too. I want to tell you about the closing of our history when we lost our bitterness.
Yes, I want you.
Come on over here.
Get over there, you guys. Yes. Okay. Yeah, you go ahead and finish what you were going to say, and then we'll talk about this.
In World War II, at the end of it, we had a problem. There was at the end of it, there were no facilities that accepted the training of Buffalo, of the colored troops.
Okay.
No reserve or no National Guard didn't
Right.
accept them. Now you get them in National Guard and all, and it's also in California. So we tried hard to get a position in there. And so when World War II came, I was California Guard.
You mean when
And
Korea
the reserves got in a
Korea
battle.
when Korea came?
Yeah, Korea. And so the reserves got in a battle, and they blocked me to hold on to keep me from going in, to leaving the reserves. So I was been assigned to the first mountain that went into Korea. But when the war ended, I was still bitter towards the fact that we had no opportunity to get an advancement in the military other than what we had with the reserves. The reserve would release us. And when the war ended, President Truman got into battle with General MacArthur. A severe battle. But the reason MacArthur said that he would not take the blame for the Chosin Reservoir, the mountain reservoir, debacle, is because they're type of fighting under General Allman, who was the Lieutenant General then, a Corps Commander and a Lieutenant General, but he was second in command. And he took the reservoir and he landed, and he learned just like he was doing with us, trying to do with us, run, and get us all killed off without supplies, without education, all that, with his training. So it went out just like they did with the bus, like a crazy bunch of people running. And that fighting went out with the Civil War, that frontal attacks. And therefore he refused to accept the blame for that situation. That is why he was relieved. George C. Marshall was then a Secretary of State, VMI graduate, brother-in-law of General Malman, and that was why. So the bitterness, once we heard that, we felt that the bitterness was the lack of the 3 C's in fighting, plus the racism. But the racism didn't bear as strongly. So I got a lot of bitterness out when I read that. But that didn't come out for about 10 years after he died. that was a reason that he was a true reason. But General Almond was fired right away. And I have a brother who did some cooking for General Almond. And he knew that General Almond was relieved when MacArthur was relieved. And MacArthur, you know, and you hear nothing about General Almond anymore. But he was Lieutenant General. So I wanted to point that out, that the colored troops were trained by West Pointers. West Pointers followed the British. The 3 C's, containment, camouflage, and other crime. The 3 C's of fighting. And that is being taught now in the military. But they learn it from the Watusis.
Especially special services, which is so important in the kind of wars that we deal in now. It's not, hey, diddle down the middle. It's, you gotta. I want to back up again a little bit about your niece, the lieutenant colonel. Tell me, do you know how she got in, how she got to where she is now?
Well, she said instead of chasing the boys for sex, she chased them from fighting, learn how to fight. And she was assigned to the infantry unit, you know. Infantry and she's a parachutist.
Yeah.
And she just liked to fight boys. So that was her reason.
Yeah.
But I didn't know about her until 6 months ago.
Well, that's quite an accomplishment. Okay, I want to talk to Elizabeth. Elizabeth, how long have you known this young man over here?
3 years.
3 years, okay. And what's he like to take care of? Does he pay attention to what you tell him?
Oh yes, very interesting.
And your background, how long have you lived here
I would say 20 years.
Okay, and where did you grow up?
Originally from Mexico. When I was 14, then my family brought me over to Orange County.
Oh, okay. Where in Mexico?
Zacatecas.
Which is?
It's a state. It's towards the middle of the state country.
You ever been there? Been through that area?
Yes, I have. I used to go all over.
Well, I know. Maybe you knew her mom and dad?
No, I didn't.
Do you speak Spanish? Did you?
I speak enough of it. That's why I can't get rid of her. Can you explain that? That's a good answer to explain to him right now. Why?
Because he spoke Spanish to me when he was interviewing me, whether I should.
I didn't want her. I did not want her. I refused to hire her.
Is she too pretty?
No. I wanted to be alone. To be alone like that. That's why I lived in Ogilvy, California, out in the desert for 20 years, hiding from my children. Any man that spent 15 years in the same house with 4 female girl daughters and a daughter and a dog, he needs to run. I ran like hell.
He's very independent.
I ran like hell.
Mhm.
And still running.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I know she was telling me her son, and what's your son's name?
Alejandro.
Alejandro, that you are his hero.
Yeah. He listens to
Too
me.
bad we didn't bring the pictures.
She has 11 sisters, and they all stop me on the street and kiss me. I never knew who they are.
You have 11 sisters?
11. That would be 9 sisters, 10 with me, and 1 brother.
Oh, all around here? And is it?
Most of them.
Most of them.
Most of them.
Okay, yeah. And you're a caregiver. Did you go to school to learn that, or what?
Yes.
Where'd you go?
In Orange County. I went after my high school. After my high school, I went to beauty school, which once I finished beauty school, I realized that it's not what I wanted to do. Then after that, I went to, they sort of train you how to become a nurse assistant, and also you get as training to become help at home, not just at a hospital, but at home.
So do you cut his hair then?
No.
Did you? Did you?
No, he won't let me touch it.
Or trim his mustache? You don't do that
No,
either?
not yet. He's very independent.
Yes. Huh? Presidential key. Oh.
Now, that one is good right now anywhere in Europe.
Oh yeah.
All in the private club.
So you and Hugh are Good buddies?
But
Are you sure you didn't pick her up there? Is that where you got a hold of her?
no. Now this one was really given to me by my 4 daughters after I raised
That
them.
was nice.
They the one paid for it and sponsored it. Because I had raised them, but I put them, before.
Yeah.
But then I hit the road after that.
We just got a couple more minutes to go here.
Any questions?
I will just, to wrap it up, I usually kind of ask veterans like you if you have any advice for young people today that might either be going into harm's way like you did, or I don't think there's that much of it anymore, but I'm sure there is still in certain areas where you can run into a little prejudice here or there. How would you suggest that they handle situations like that?
Well, I tell them, everybody I see, bring back the CCC camp and make it mandatory, and to give everybody, a child, young person, something that he can put his hand on. I did this, I worked on it, I fought for it. Give these children something to live and fight for, not the crap that we've been done in the last 90 years now. This is mine. I worked on that road. I built that bridge. Don't you touch it. I've got something to fight for. These children have nothing to fight for. Nothing to fight for. TV and all that baloney. But no, we need to bring back the relationship between the older and the younger, and the older passing on and spending time with the younger to give them something to fight for, to live for. Not just to take away with everything is free and easy and non-workable, and let the government get the hell out of a lot of our business.
Because I meant to ask you, you said that you were back to Italy a couple years ago,
I was
was it?
back to Italy 2 years ago, and there's some information there.
Okay, well
In
tell
that
me a little
package.
bit about that trip. How did it come about, and what did you see? And was this the first time you've been back to Italy since World War II?
This is the first trip I've made back.
Okay, and how did that come about?
I saw an announcement in the one of the magazines, and I called in for it. And I was supposed to go over in May of 2006 with Hazel Hargrove, who visited Fort Huachuca with me and who had been working in the exchange down there, but the nurse. But she couldn't make it, so they canceled it because they had 200 people, and by the time they got ready to go, it was down to about 20 people. And so they rescheduled one for October 2006, and they had 100. By the time they got ready to go, it was 8. They're dead, all dead, and it's a hell of a no. But so my children knew that I should go before I died. I was talking about being busy and all, wanted to go back. And my grandson, who's a promoter, in fact, he just had a big show down here at the Wyndham Hotel last weekend with about 2,000 people. It's a weekend in Palm Springs. If you were around town, you saw a lot of minorities in the community. But they're all professionals, No bums in any of it. And he had his own police force. He has his own police force when he had these shows. He's had shows at Indian Wells, at the Rye Hyatt, and all his big hotels. So he could cover it. But he agreed to take me over. And of course, we had a good time. We saw the Pope with machine guns. He came in with his entourage with all the fancy guns. And the strange thing about it is that Purple Heart got us into more trouble than you can shake a stick at, because Purple Heart, they got around that was a Purple Heart. So 500 or 700 people in line to go and see the Pope, or to see the public library, or to see the different demonstrations of that Purple Heart. And the police run up there and support him, and he said that Grandpa said, you lost 10 years. You lost 10 years. He said, rough road, hauling me around the wheelbarrow. He said, I gained 20 years. It took him 2 months to rest after he brought me back. But he was trying to carry me in a motorcycle and run up down those damn rough roads. But he got the picture. He's the only one that got the picture of the Pope. got that in the house there. But the pulpit, when of course they had all their machine guns. And I think got some beautiful guns too. But he came in with his entourage and took off.
Did you get up to any of the areas that you saw combat in?
Yes, I did. I went to all of them. And I went to Po Valley, Bolivar. I didn't get to see where my headquarters was. I went back there with that trip cost me $10,000, a little over $10,000. But I went back there for one purpose. I did get shot in the butt, but the bullet came out. And I went back with the intention of finding that bullet. That's cost me $10,000 looking for it. It's around Pietrasanta. And we went looking for it. And I was going to give him $1,000 to help me. And I had a shovel. So we spent one day looking for that bullet. Because I know if I could find it, I'd close up my life. But it cost me $10,000 to look for that bullet. And she knows about it. But nobody will want to see where I got shot. Nobody.
Was that at a different time than when the 88 came in?
It's a different time.
It was a different time.
I didn't report it that because it just went in and went out. When I was diving over one of those mountains. So we dived a lot. Mm-hmm. You didn't run and roll like in the treadmill and all. Yeah. They started shooting. Well, look at the battle in Sicily. Look at the battle in La Spezia. You had 8, 10, 20,000 people get killed. And in Sicily, you were in there and you'd see a guy coming out through there and a damn shark. There had a lot of sharks. That was bloody anyhow. And all of a sudden you'd see him go down there. He's gone. And what can you do? You're shooting yourself. So it's a hell of a damn thing and never got it out of my mind if it hadn't been for my niece. Never could. My children didn't want to know about that. And if she hadn't sat down and talked to me. But I've been worried about all that stuff blocked into my mind. She didn't know that I talked to her about it. I was always frustrated that I was going to die and have all that in. It's out of my mind now. Clear. I can get the hell out of there. I can go back to Ogilvy and with my Sidewinder rattlers and not worry about it. I walk. I'm not supposed to walk.
I meant to ask you, when you did come back, did you have nightmares about what you had seen over there and stuff like that?
Yes, it did. It took my wife 6 months to get the gun out of my hand. You see, over there in those days, you don't see much about that now. But a German would come in, and maybe 8 or 10 of us in a room, cut 2 throats. That scares the shit out of it. I mean, that's something you will always be thinking about. You shut your eyes. And why he didn't throw a hand grenade and kill all of us? He could have done that. If he got inside a room with 8 or 10 people in sleep, how would he cut 2 throats and not 8? That's psychological. And it's the biggest thing that you will never live down. And to this day, I still have that feeling when I go to sleep and something goes jerk. But they did it several occasions. And of course, the other is that I take a bath every day. And they, of course, they don't understand, but I went 3 and 4 months without taking a bath. Our clothes were so rotten, I get bloody, you've been fighting, you get sick, and everything you go through, everything. And you still don't take any bath. But I take one every day.
How did the Italian people themselves, not the partisans so much, but that you came across back in the World War II, treat you?
Very exceptionally good. I'm the godfather of one of the Countess Catina's grandson. He's a baron. They treated us well. There was a fighter that went into Italy. I can't think of his name now. Back in 300 BC or something like that time. That had little black blood.
Oh yeah, from Carthage. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
No, they treated us a hell of a lot better than we got treated in the United States. That's why I went to Tijuana. I was just to get the hell out of the country. But after reading that thing about MacArthur, he said about there was a tactics that took a lot out of the
You were talking
bitterness.
about Hannibal.
Hannibal.
Right.
It's,
So when you came, that, I forgot what you called it,
American reorientation course.
So what did that consist of?
Nothing but driving around Alabama and like, they had us going out and it's supposed to be on special duty, going out and running a rifle range. You had to be out there about 4 o'clock in the morning and come back and go back and count bullets. So you're out there at 11 o'clock, from 4 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock at night. That was supposed to be special duty. And in other words, slavery. Slavery. 4 o'clock to 11 at night, every day.
Well, what was it supposed to be doing? I mean,
training to get ready to go to Japan.
Oh, it's for Japan. Okay,
Retraining.
that's okay. I got you. Okay.
But their troops, their compliments didn't do any work. They sat around, drank coffee, and especially the temporary duty combat. That was a part of our training, our work. It was slavery.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a colonel from Indiana with a damn. Oh, he was a post commanding the school down there, but he had nothing to do because he rode to Indiana with me 3 different times. Yeah. And we'd go back. I could get away at 5 on Friday, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and take him back to Indiana. He lived in Jeffersonville, and take him back. So there's no problem there. It's just the fact that they made sure that all combat colored troops would American reorientation course in Fort McClellan, Alabama. That's where General Alma lived. But it wasn't General Alma, just the fact that was a Southern. You went to Fort McClellan, Alabama, let you know that you're back. All the freedom you may have had when you were over in Italy, you can forget about it when you come back to the United States. Bitterness, little, but that's what MacArthur said. I lost a lot of it, a lot of bitterness. I settled down, so I can smile, but I'm pretty bitter. Of course, first place, they tricked us out of promotions. When the war ended, World War II, if you had spent a year in grade with an excellent or superior rating, you were automatically increased one rating when you went on terminal leave. But they sent the colored combat troops to Fort McClellan, Alabama, so the best you can get is very satisfactory. That knocks you out of being a captain.
Well, now you ended up being a captain. Where or how did that happen?
In California, by organized a National Guard company, an engineering company, National Guard, for 2 years.
You were part of that?
Yes, sir. I was company commander, Company C.
And where did they meet?
They met in downtown San Diego on 12th Street, and there's a big old building, 12th and right below Broadway. There was a big old schoolyard, old abandoned schoolyard on there, and that's where our headquarters was. But when I was called back to active duty, they killed everything. They wouldn't promote me. They wouldn't release me. And you'll see there's an order 1990 in there. I'm still under call.
Yeah.
And that's still, and strangely enough, my niece is with that operation right now. The draft board, civil service.
Yeah.
And she's with it right now. So she's taking that information back that they had me at 9, and you know how old I was when I was 1990.
Yeah.
But I was called back in 1960, It's just that they would never release me though. I did some work in needles because I could type. And of course my baby daughter said, I can see if I was right with that typewriter and I'm writing all that bad stuff. She makes fun. But it's worked like a type.
Yeah.
So I was colonel, and I knew all they did. And General Thomas came in and took over, and I was right there on his side.
And on your your trip back to Italy, did you interact with any Italian people much
yes.
over there?
There's a picture right there of me celebrating my 88th birthday at the Monte Casino. I remember that. And those people gave me a hell of a party. I mean, and they sang. And the grappa, I don't know if you know what grappa is.
It's a drink of some
It's a
sort,
drink,
isn't
yes,
it?
it's a tough drink.
Oh.
And my grandson panicked. There was a doctor that went over with us. He's from Florida. And I couldn't raise my legs, so he well, the car was high, and we offered to buy a ladder, step ladder, but that was unethical. Well, it was, just didn't do it like that. So they had to pull me up and raise my leg, and I can move better now, but but this doctor was so good to me.
You don't give him tequila, do you?
Oh, my grappa's gone now. I gotta get another bottle. It's hard to find. It's hard to find. It's good stuff. It makes you move. Every time I got hurt, I had grappa. I wish you could get a bottle of that and you volunteer to go out with you on patrol. But that grappa was real good stuff. But this doctor took everybody. He came. My grandson ran downstairs. So I had two shots hidden under the table. He didn't know about. So he ordered me one to send up to the room, and he ordered one, brought one up, and he ordered me another one. And there's a picture of me in my thing there. I was dead. I was out dead. So he went down to get the doctor. But he came up, and I was out. I was dead. You see a picture, you see how I look dead. It scared the hell out of him. So this doctor got everybody down in the hotel. Came up with, they were at this party celebration. And they all came up to see me. And the doctor said, I wouldn't drink that horse piss. And, yeah, I'm an alcoholic. I drink scotch, but he's a big doctor in Florida. And he's a white doctor. And there was another fellow, that Rocky, they got the Medal of Honor, the Bronze Star. And I got his papers in there. I got a little section there when I went to Italy, and his letter and all. But they came up. His wife is Italian. He's Italian. So he knew what grappa was. His wife knew what grappa was. And so they got it. She and I, man, we had a good time drinking grappa. But the doctor told me, he said, I wouldn't drink this piss. It does taste bad, I guess. I don't know, but I hadn't had any in 70 years. But I sure enjoyed it. The big old bottle. Be quiet.
Okay, we're here at the Palm Springs Air Museum, and I'm Dr. Dave Thompson. And today we are honored to have Paula Kaplan, TAC Kaplan, and they're going to be talking a little bit about their father, Captain Jerome Kaplan, who was a white officer with a black artillery unit in Europe during World War II, principally at the Battle of the Bulge and elsewhere. And also Lieutenant George Edwards, who was a Buffalo soldier fighting in North Africa and in Italy during World War II. So we're going to just have a little chat for a little while. Okay, first of all, how did your dad become involved with this black artillery unit, and what unit was that?
It was the 969th, and they were attached to the 101st Airborne Division. And he was drafted. He had graduated from Columbia University. He was living in New York, and he was drafted. He would not have gone into the military. He said, my father didn't believe in any kind of regimentation. He voted for Norman Thomas, and my father was not even a Boy Scout. So when he was drafted, this whole military life was quite new to him. And we asked him, do you know why you were assigned to this black unit? And he never knew. Nobody ever said, but he was Jewish and from the north. He grew up in Hartford, Connecticut, and so we're guessing that probably had something to do with it.
Mm-hmm. That it would be easier for him than somebody that grew up in the South with perhaps prejudices or whatever.
Well, that it would be, I think.
He could have just been lucky, because it was luck. Yeah.
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 And also
too.
that he probably himself had seen some discrimination along the line and could empathize,
Well, he used to walk to school with black kids. I mean, the neighborhood where he grew up was very mixed. But he said to me that when he was toward the end of the war, after the Battle of the Bulge, when he had been with all of his men together, and they were black men. And then he was transferred to another unit, and he said it felt very strange. It didn't feel like home anymore to him. And he felt closer to those men than to anybody else except his family, ever.
George, did you have white officers when in World War II?
Regrettably, we did, but we had Southern white officers.
Oh.
Southern, BMI, Virginia, and BMI.
Yeah.
And we had a serious problem. But let me explain one thing. The colored troops basically were always trained by regular army. But when they decided to go in World War I, when they took them in, some of the French, they refused to accept them, and France took them. But France took them and really honored them, because they learned to throw hand grenades like baseballs. And so every French unit wanted a Buffalo soldier. Because then you wind up and boom, down, and then 0 and 4 down. And they were very, very accurate. They were throwing our hand grenades instead of our procedure. But they threw it accurately. So when the war ended, the French government brought the black troops back, colored troops back. The French government, Noble Cecil and other troops, and they had a big parade. They had more Legion of Merit and various honors that they didn't get in the United States. But the United States didn't bring them back now. I can't think of the name of the World War I leader at that time.
Blackjack Pershing.
Yes, they didn't want that. So we had the same situation when World War II came in. We were sent to Fort Huachuca and other areas, but the regular forces were trained by West Pointers. Not necessarily the best, but at least they got the training. And the West Pointers learned from the British. They learned from the British. And the British learned from the Watusis. If you recall, your husband said about how the Watusis would line up large forces with their spears, and the British would let them come close, and they would dancing and drinking and partying. So the British relaxed completely, but they didn't know what was going on. But what was going on was that they were digging holes in the ground and planting troops. That's the first force of security, planting troops and camouflaging them. So when they would back up, and the British would come in, and the Germans lost it to the Watusis the same way. But when they backed up, the British troops and the Germans would rush, thinking they were surrendering. But they were coming out of the holes and shooting them in the back, in the front. So that's why we learned in MacArthur and Eisenhower and all those regular Army personnel, trained generals, learned to dive. You don't stand up, you dive. But whereas the Southern officers under BMI, they'd like to stand up. The North Africa and Italian campaign lost more generals out of proportion than any other war because they stood up. And it really wasn't until there was Joe Lewis's manager went over there to check on one of the battles, and he wrote back and said the black soldiers vanished. They ran or they vanished. They just faded away. They didn't run, they didn't fade away. They learned to dive and dig holes and shoot you in the back. And that was the biggest thing. And until the Korean War was over, 30,000 Americans were killed when the Chinese came across. And Truman tried to fire MacArthur because of the failure to stop the massacre. And MacArthur refused to take the blame because that general who is second in command was General Allman, who was my division commander in World War II, who we had conflict because he wanted us to do the same, fight the same way, but we learned under the regular army to dig holes, dig box holes, and dive, or shoot, and you'd always shoot and you'd roll. Your husband would always tell you about it. You hit the ground and you roll over because they're gonna shoot you where you land, and they'd always miss the shooting by find something else. So all these things right now, coming like when you're bringing it together, is one of the greatest things that redeemed the colored troops. And your husband was in that position to where he had learned from them the way to stay alive. Although he was in artillery, he still had to dive sometimes, and he learned to dive instead of standing up. You shooting a gun that shoots, artillery shoots 5 or 10 rounds in a minute. You shooting somebody with an 88 that's shooting 500 rounds a minute. There's a hell of a lot more bullets flying in. And so you don't stand up, you dive and you dig a hole and you shoot out.
George, tell us a little bit of the history of the Buffalo Soldiers.
Buffalo Soldiers were started back in the Civil War, and they had the 2 cavalry units and 2 infantry units. Now the infantry units were 24th and 25th Infantry. Of course, you accepted out of there the 368th, 369th, and 371st. And 370 and 371st were later cadred out from basically the 24th and 25th Infantry. And then the cavalry was sent out, and they cadred out 2 units. I don't know the names of them, but they cadred out 2 units. But they went to Germany. They went to Germany or England.
Well,
in the cavalry.
Yeah. Okay. Well, but back up a little bit to right after the Civil War.
Oh.
Where did they go?
At the Civil on the Civil War, they fought for the North, and a lot of them left the West, left to go to the West after the Civil War was over, and 8 out of 10 cowboys in the West were black soldiers.
Yeah.
That's why you go to rodeo,
Yeah.
and that's where they started.
Yeah.
Why were they called Buffalo Soldiers to
Buffalo,
start?
it deals with the hair. Now, there's a Colonel Tartan who was a co-pilot on President Reagan's plane. Remarked that he said, "Now look at this. He's a Buffalo soldier, but look at his hair." So I told him about a battle that I was in with a German officer. I was an officer too. And he was tall. He looked about like the size of the governor of California. He wasn't a real hero.
Arnold.
He was cutting at me so fast with that knife, ding 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 ding, and I'm dodging.
Oh.
And his ear went by my mouth, and of course I bit it off. And about 50 years later, when Tyson bit somebody in a boxing arena, I got calls and letters from all over the country wanting to know how much he paid me to learn how to fight dirty. But not enough. I know how to fight dirty.
So what he's getting at was, again, the reason they call them Buffalo Soldiers, the Indians thought they looked like buffalo because they had black curly hair.
Oh, I see.
And what he's talking about is when and somebody said, "Well, you're not a Buffalo Soldier. You don't even have
Your hair
curly
isn't
hair." And
curly.
what he's saying is that, yeah, I got in this fight. It straightened out.
It's like using a straightening comb.
Yes, yes, that'll do it.
That knife was going across my head.
Oh.
I'm little.
Oh.
So they were at Fort Huachuca in Arizona, I think, weren't they, fighting? And then you ended up. He went in. Maybe he told you, in Evansville, you had how many brothers and sisters?
20 children. Give him 20 children.
20,
He was the
you know.
7th, right?
Yeah.
7th son.
And
12
so
boys and 8 girls.
And he went into the CCC camps, and working on different stuff. He built we have a real nice zoo and park, and they did that, stuff like that. So he learned.
CCC camps? Well, CCC,
Yes.
meaning,
Was your father was he in the CCC camp
I don't know
earlier?
what that means.
Oh, Civilian Conservation Corps, where he,
Yeah.
yeah.
Roosevelt.
Roosevelt,
Part of
yeah,
WPA and that
instigated
stuff.
it.
Was
Yeah,
Daddy
but it
in
was
that? He did something with the WPA, but not.
No, that's
Well,
nothing to do with.
well, that was still one of what Roosevelt said when they took all the money out of the country, when they had to close up and all the money went to Germany. International bankers took it out and went to Germany and Japan and Italy. Roosevelt says, I have one objective. My first objective is to see to it that every baby from the crib to college gets one hot meal a day.
Mm.
One hard one.
One hot meal a day.
Oh, yeah.
Now, my second objective is to see to it that every baby from kindergarten to college works to pay for that one hot meal a day.
Mm-hmm.
Now, from that situation, you ended up with the babies beating, racing in the school and helping to clean up around, our whole class would go down and with little sticks and pick up the trash in the parks, Biscuit Park and Sunset Park and all that.
Yeah.
But little kids with little nails. But then you had the CCC camp, which took care of the older group, 17 and above. And of course then the WPA came through after that. But it was work.
The CC camps and the WPA are a result of the unemployment.
Situation.
Was terrible because of the depression.
That's right.
Okay.
But what he in the CCC camp, the way he explained it to me, it's much like the military.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they were in barracks.
Under Army regulations.
Oh, they were.
Under Army regulations, yes.
Is that how you got into the military?
Yes.
From that?
From
Mhm.
that.
I wanted to comment on something you said unfortunately our officers were white and from the South. My father told a story about how there were some other officers in, I guess, their battalion, and they were Southern white officers, and at least one of them was just viciously racist, and so he got blown up. He died.
Oh yeah, they did a lot of fragging.
They did a lot of fragging, and he said, and nobody ever said anything about it, but everybody pretty much knew why.
Fragging.
And most of his men, his junior officer Eugene Jones was from Philadelphia, and had a really excellent education and was very involved in the arts and so on, and was became a professor. But most of the men were from the South and had had very poor education. And after my father died, I thought I'd heard all of his war stories, but after he died, there was this one man that I had written to directly, who was his first sergeant, Sergeant Isaac Pope. And I told him that my father had died, and I said, I'm writing to you because he had so much respect for you. He spoke so fondly of you and talked about how smart you were and you moved up so fast. And he wrote a note and referred to my father and what he did about getting them the vote. And I didn't know what he was talking about, so I called him. And he told me a story that in my father's, all those decades, he never told us, he never told my mother, he never told anybody, that before they were going to go overseas, he found out that a lot of the men had not been allowed to vote in the South. And he said, my father was the most gentle, even person, but Sergeant Pope said, when your father found out, it just about made him crazy. And he wrote to General Eisenhower, and he said, these men are going overseas to risk their lives for this country. They need to vote before they go. And so they did vote. And then one of the things that happened when they were overseas was that Gene Jones and my father, they had a choir, and they would arrange for them to perform in various churches and other places there, and so they got to see things in Europe that they certainly hadn't seen in the Deep South. And Sergeant Pope said, then when he came back from the war, and he went back to his hometown of Kinston, North Carolina, and encountered the racism that he had left, he said it just about destroyed him, and he got rid of his medals.
Well, I had a situation that 50 of the top colored officers. That was at the time. Only the War Department orders were, because George C. Marshall was a Southerner, so we had all the South. But the all colored officers would be lieutenants, regardless of position. Now, when the war ended, there were 50 of us. I have a number of points, the highest number of points.
And you hadn't been allowed to be
And they
promoted
put us-
beyond that.
That's right. But they put us in boxcars, and up in Milan. Took us 3 days in the boxcars to go from Milan to Naples. 3 days and nights. But in the middle of that train, we were in boxcars. We were up in the front of that train, boxcars with the little 40 and 8 plane trains, with everything in the middle and everything. But in the middle of that train were German soldiers under guard. Under guard.
Oh,
In the middle. And in the end of that train were German officers. Under guard. Heavy guard. But they were there. In the Pullman. And for 3 days we came from the north down to the south, driving through, and every time we stop, people come out and look. Now we're the conquerors. We're in boxcars. We're not allowed to. And also in all the camps around there, you had prisoners of war that were white or Italian, or even, wait a minute, or some darker. Some of them darker races, because they had quite a mix of races. But when raising my children, I told them the same thing. Get an education, learn 3 languages, and when you leave the United States, you speak that 3rd language. Don't you see? Because if you went out and spoke American, they would get you. You're in for trouble. But you speak anything else, and when I finished Officer Candidate School in 42, there were 12 officers. There was no segregation in the Officer Candidate School. No segregation. You went there and you were given a job, and they better respect you, or you hit them. You can't do that no more. You hit them. I learned I beat them. I probably fight dirty. But that was a secret of it. But the CCC camp set up, and you talked about the first being a first sergeant, and with it. But we learned in the CCC camp that we took an attitude, whether it was poor or rich, some kind of wealth, they got a little in there. I built that bridge. I planted that tree. I built that road over there. I cultivated that land to help the farmer. And I'll be damned if you're going to touch it. Regardless of whether you're white, green, or color. You had that attitude, I did this, and I'm damned if you're going to touch it. And that was why we were very, very successful, because we had something. The children don't have that now. You had to have something. And I wish I could have been around to talk to your husband, because we'd have a lot to talk about.
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
We'd like a lot.
I wish Obama would do something like that.
That's why he should have done that at the beginning.
Sure.
I know when I started politics, that the first thing he should have done was to put these kids to work. Right now, it's summertime coming up, and he's still not. But that's because of the older people. Older people that that day of, the days when they were, I can't think of the name of this economic, no, it wasn't an economist, he was an educator that used that LSD.
Timothy Leary.
Timothy Leary, yeah, and all that, party, free sex, home sex, exchange sex, and you name it. And now those are the people that are in their 60s and 70 years old, 60s and 70s, and they're demanding help. They should be taking care of themselves. I'm 92, almost 93, and I got to go next week. I got to go to a special session to find out how I live to be this strong. Seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah. How I was able to go from From what I did, but I saw that movie Logan's Run. I don't know if you remember that one.
What was
Logan's Run? Where when you reach 29, they give you 2 hours to run, and the children killed you. You never seen that?
I never saw it. I heard about
Logan's
it.
Run?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a
I
bad.
remember the title, but I don't think I saw it.
Oh, well, that,
Your parents must have been phenomenal.
well, they beat us.
They beat something in your head that was good.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
But we did. We learned the hard way. But we built the country, and we were not about to turn it loose.
Yeah.
And I raised 4 daughters, and they're all successful because I taught them to work. You gotta work. You gotta work.
You know, I don't know
But
if he
then
told
they didn't want women working.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if he told you or not, but his wife passed away when their last child was born. So
Yeah.
he raised all these girls all by himself.
While working.
Yeah, and he was working accountant in La Jolla. He had a nice.
Did you say
You
as a
should-
team? Yeah.
You should have more medals.
Yeah,
You should-
for raising
wait,
them.
wait a minute. Let me tell you
Put
this.
them on your pants.
Wait a
yeah.
minute. Wait a minute. They all want to come back home now.
His daughters.
You don't have to take them.
Well, okay, so tell them how you got overseas. Well, you came here first. in
Yes,
Palm-
over to that. They sent us over to North Africa.
Yeah, but you came here. You were here in the
Went to-
desert with Patton's.
Yeah, oh,
group.
we were here.
With Patton.
We were here before Patton. In fact, Patton, I was the first sergeant, so Patton respected me a lot more than the officers. But I was, he did respect rank, And I was a little young guy, but I was mean. I was mean.
But he was mean. Was
He
he
was mean. We got
to
along.
you? You got along.
Hey, but you both had hearts.
yeah, we did.
Yeah.
That's right. We
yeah.
did.
Hey, did you go to the cemetery in Luxembourg where the American soldiers are buried?
No, I was.
And Patton is buried
Yeah,
there.
I've been there.
Oh, boy.
I've been there. Yeah.
That's something else.
Yes,
yeah.
it is.
Well, now they just started about a month ago a movie on Patton in the desert training and also in combat. And your husband's outfit I'll explain that to him, and that'll be in a part of the movie.
I hope
Be in
so.
the movie.
You're
You're going to be in the movie.
I'll be in the
Who's
Yeah, they
doing the
came- they-
movie?
It's a public PBS broadcast
Oh.
movie set up.
It's a what?
It's public
PBS.
broadcasting.
a documentary sort of a thing. They contacted the Air Museum and wanted to know if we knew anybody that had been out here during that time. So I gave them George's name, and they came down and spent a long time with him. And so it's going forward.
And the museum it will be listed in the statistics.
In the credits.
I made damn sure of that.
So you were here training, and
Yes.
then what?
Well, we learned how to live on a quart of water a day before Patton. We know how to do it. There's a little trick.
He was out here before Pat. He said you were up in the mountain
We covered
guarding
it.
the railroad.
But we had 7,500 troops in here, covering the same area that Patton brought 2,000 men in and trained 2 million men.
Where were you trained?
Here.
Here in California?
Well, No, he was in
Oh,
Arizona.
oh.
That's where he did his training. And then they were sent here. His first duty station was here, right after Pearl Harbor, to protect the train, because people thought that Japs were going to come, take the train, go to
So
Indiana. And
when you say you came here, where exactly?
We came from Fort Huachuca, Arizona.
to-
We guarded the border
Right to
to Needles,
to
California.
Needles. Okay.
And our headquarters was in Needles, but we
Uh-huh.
took over this area. We took over the Boulder Dam, Parker Dam, Coachella Valley.
Because they were afraid the
They were
Japanese
afraid of
were going to
Japanese,
bomb
yes.
the.
And Boulder Dam was
Right.
a big problem, but we
Uh-huh.
had that. And Parker Dam, we had another big situation, big waterway.
And then what happened between here or Needles and getting overseas?
Well, they got us on a...
You shaped him up?
Oh yeah, we shaped them
Oh, I
up.
bet you did. You're so mean. Yeah.
Patton learned a lot about how to let them live using foxholes and also living with water. And a lot of men, if you fell out here without, they didn't let you go. They did not stop to take care of you. You had to learn to have that discipline.
How do you live on less water?
The secret was
Yeah.
that you went to the mess hall at breakfast, you loaded up with, had a regular meal, then you stopped, and as long as there was a water lister bag, just about like that counter there, you could stop and get water as long as you were in that mess hall area. So we learned you stop by, you get a cup of hot coffee and a cup of cold water, maybe 2 cups of cold water, and we learned this in the CCC camp. And then you take off. By the time you hit the boys' room, you unloaded, and then you still had about half an hour. Then you'd go back to the lister bag to pick up your lunch, which is ate breakfast around 4 or 5 in the morning, and they give you a sandwich and an apple or fruit, some other fruit, and you didn't get anything to eat until 11 o'clock at night, but you walked. So you just took care of yourself, you cleaned yourself out, you went back and loaded up with water, and all day long you just had a little problem with water, and no problem. So you learn to live on that 1 quart of water they gave you to take a shower and eat and shave.
But when you got over to Italy, you didn't need water so much because you had something else to drink, didn't you?
Well, that's a grappa.
Was it good?
Oh, watch the movie, The Story of G.I. Joe. The Story of G.I. Joe.
I'm not sure. Did you join or were you drafted?
I joined.
Why?
Well, I joined because I knew that I was born on October the 17th. See, but now if you were born on October the 16th, you had to go to the draft. I could have waited 1 more year, but I knew that with my experience,
Your
I better
luck.
get the hell in there now early, and it worked. It worked out. It worked out.
Why did you want to get in early?
Because I knew that with my experience, I could control things. If I waited until 1 more year,
Oh.
I wouldn't have gone up as fast as I did.
Advanced and
Yeah.
But
You wanted to get away from your kids.
you didn't
20
have
children, they weren't missed. I wasn't missed.
his 20
You
brothers
didn't
and sisters.
have, but you didn't have children at that
No.
time. You got,
No,
you had the children after.
I got married, and while I was after I made, you had to be a staff sergeant above to get married at
I
that
didn't
time.
know that. I didn't know
It
that.
would court martial you if you were and you got married on the
Oh.
outside.
Oh.
But you went to, but I made staff sergeant in February, in March.
Well, you couldn't afford it.
Well, I know it was $18, but when I made staff sergeant, I was getting $24 a month. And then when I made staff sergeant, staff sergeant I made $72. But then I got married, and then
What year was that?
1942.
42.
And didn't your wife get something?
Yes, she got we got a living allowance.
Yeah.
Yes. But those, and now the worst part about my setup was when near Pearl Harbor, I'd made first sergeant. But my first job was gathering all the baby buggies. They commanded all baby buggies. But we didn't have any rifles, any machine gun nests or tanks and all that. So I had to command all baby buggies. And man, those women mothers hated me. I don't care who it was.
What did you do with the baby buggies?
We took stovepipes and wired them on those.
Made tanks out of them, pretend tanks.
Made equipment, like little artificial, like an anti-tank gun or a mortar or whatever it was with a motor. It wasn't the baby buggy running around there with bing, 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 bing,
Are there photographs of this or film?
Camouflage.
Do you know, are there photographs of this or film?
I don't know. Well, let me see. Another reason I don't know. When I came back, I said we shipped us from northern Italy down to southern in boxcars. Then we got on the plane, on the boat. So the wax stopped us when the war ended, so they couldn't bring us back. And then pregnant nurses and just all on women basically. So we came back on Liberty ships, but we got orders to go home for 30 days. For 30 days. Yeah, 30 days, and then you report back to Fort McClellan, Alabama. All colored officers.
Oh,
all
great. They
colored
send you to
combat
Alabama?
officers would report to Fort McClellan, Alabama for an American reorientation course. Joshua Marshall was studying. They're still BMI. And that's a hell of a course.
What was that code for? What was that course?
What was it? I don't know.
To learn how to take orders from a black officer and not a white officer.
How to
Yeah, there's a difference.
How to remember. Mainly it would let you know that you're back in the United States.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
And you forget about what you fought for.
So it was.
I got in my.
It was saying.
I had 3 children. I got in my car in Fort McClellan. I drove to Evansville, picked up my wife and 2 children. 3 children, yeah, 3 children. And I hit the road, and I didn't stop, and I got to Tijuana, and I couldn't get a place in Tijuana, so I ended up in Chula Vista.
So you didn't go to the, what was it called, re-education camp?
I went to it.
You went to it, and they were basically saying what to you?
It's just letting you know that you're back in the United States.
Don't forget you're black.
That's right. You're back in the United States. All colored combat officers.
Okay, Sergeant Pope, the black man who was in my father's unit, said that when they got on the ship to come home from Europe, that they divided them into, they asked them, you going north or you going south when you get home? And they divided them up that way, and they had them on the ship separately. And he said when we got off the ship in the States, there was some guy standing there, I don't know what rank he was, and he said as we walked by, he said, don't you forget you're home.
It's just
It's the same kind of
same
thing,
thing I've
yeah.
said, thing I've said.
It's chilling.
I want to know how many other black were in the same outfit you were in when you went overseas.
Oh, it must have been maybe 700 or 800.
That many.
Yes, lieutenants, second lieutenants, first lieutenants.
Even officers.
That's officers, yes, 700 or 800.
Not just officers,
Enlisted.
enlisted men.
Well,
Men.
well, a division is about 35,000 men.
The blacks? How many blacks?
All of them.
All of
but
them.
officers.
All but officers.
Then I don't understand why my husband's outfit was the first black outfit.
First, I think the first black artillery battery to go, be allowed to go into battle. I think that's
Patton, because of the ability, so this cavalry boy, these boys, for the Red Ball Express, they made Patton. They worked night and day to make sure that Patton beat at the British general.
Montgomery.
At the British admiral. The general.
Montgomery.
Montgomery. And Patton was so honored because they made him, and they stopped Patton from moving for about 30 days because he moved so fast. But those kids worked night and day, and he says, you made me a hero.
Mm-hmm.
I made a hero because you worked, you made me.
Did you see the movie called Red Ball Express?
No.
It's really good. Jeff Chandler is the white officer in it. We have it here.
Oh,
And
I'd love to see
you
that.
can check it out and watch it. It really tells that.
Patton
But see, they were fighting over in Italy for at least a year before they went into France. And so the blacks were fighting there.
Yes.
Now, probably your husband's, that was probably the first unit in Europe, I mean in France, that fought. But they were, we were fighting over in Italy long before that.
I hate to say this,
I
but we
know.
have to get going.
I
We're
was just
past
afraid so.
time. I could listen to you talk forever.
Well, we're going to have you guys back,
Yeah,
and George,
please.
would you mind coming back when we come back
Sure.
again?
What else I got to do? To
Yeah,
get out of the house
yeah.
and get away from my daughter's calling.
Right. Yeah.
The way to
So-
get away from your kids.
Your daughter.
You know what? Next week, if it's Monday, I could come and Mom could come, Yeah, if it's after Tuesday, I'm away for 4 days, but my brother will be coming back the same day I do, which
Oh.
is the 11th, and so I bet he would love to come
Yeah.
and meet you.
Well, why don't we wait
He
till-
doesn't live near here. He lives in Philadelphia.
Well, why don't we wait until he gets here,
Okay.
and then we can.
Your camera's off now, this is off the
No,
right.
it's not off, but
Oh. Turn it off.
I can edit it.
He doesn't want to miss anything.
Okay, I'll turn it off.
Okay,
I-
wait a minute,
I turned it off. Okay.
Wait a minute.
Are you available?
Yes, I'm available.
You're available.
Anytime.
Let me tell you, my father was a Catholic. He had black and Jewish blood.
Really?
Yes.
You know we're Jewish?
Yes, sir.
How'd you
said
know?
earlier.
Oh, that's right.
earlier.
I said we're Jewish.
He had a little black and Jewish blood.
So you're Jewish, and you know what? My father had dark skin, and he tanned very dark, very fast. He had light blue-gray eyes, and he was once out at a restaurant or a nightclub or something with some other black men, and he
And
saw
women.
and women, and he saw somebody pointing over at him and saying, "I think he's passing."
Oh, well, I'm not. I didn't pass, but that was.
And my
That
son
was true.
and my son-in-law is black, and his mother grew up in Kinston, and her father worked at DuPont with Sergeant Pope. I mean, the way that
Whoa,
things
my
have
gosh.
intertwined, it's just
Yeah.
been remarkable.
But Evansville.
So you're part Jewish
Well,
Well.
just don't.
and Catholic.
What did you say, Catholic?
and Catholic. And Catholic.
He was.
And my daughter was 99. You know, she's
The
senior
99
vice president,
cents,
99 sister.
yeah,
You know
yeah.
who they are.
Yeah.
So I'm Catholic, and my mom and so the school or the church that he went to is the same church that they went to.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so that's how they kind of knew each other and stuff.
Do you,
so it's
do you all
really
go to
interest-
Sacred Heart by any chance?
Yeah, we do.
You do?
Yeah,
You know
Father
Dave
Lincoln.
Jones?
I don't think I know him.
You should meet Dave Jones. He's a Vietnam vet
Is he?
who writes exquisite poetry.
Well, we interview any veterans here, so he would be someone that we
You should
if
call
you,
him.
Okay,
I'll
if you give me
his
the
phone number.
information.
Your
you can-
skin is very fair.
It is.
Are you fading?
A little bit.
A little bit?
Yeah, but I drink grappa.
It was that fighting with that officer in the knives. I think that he hasn't gotten over that.
Like that officer told
Let me give you
hand
Dave
a bottle of grappa
Jones.
to
He's,
Ernie Powell.
he's quite
He
remarkable.
says, you get 1 or 2 or 3 of these, and you're okay. But you drink 4 or 5 or 6, and you'll whip the world. Grappa, you keeps you going.
And he, and in my, I remember.
Whatever it is,
That's
it's
all
wonderful.
Veterans, which
Yeah,
won an award,
yeah.
to
Yeah,
publishers.
I was okay until I got this leg, but I'm gonna be okay.
His
I'm
poems
gonna-
all the way
yeah,
through.
yeah.
I'm sure that's
Well,
why
we'll
it won the
see you.
award.
Okay,
Okay.
Hang in there, hang in there, drinking grappa. They would take a cane, get it. Use my cane to help get up.
Huh?
You want to use that cane to get up?
I'm trying not to.
Oh, okay, okay.
I'm vain. No, I wanna get my legs stronger
Oh, yeah,
again.
well,
Yes,
that's-
he came
that's-
back
that's
from
nothing wrong with
Vietnam,
that.
He was okay.
1,
And then
2,
Desert
3.
Storm happened.
I believe in exercise.
Oh, I
George,
do.
stay there because I want to talk to you a little bit more.